What's up, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to week 1 of the FNCS Invitational. I'm your host, Zeke, and we are back with day number 2. Yesterday, we watched 10 games of incredible action across EU and NA East, and now we're back to do it all again. To kick off the broadcast, we've got Monster D-Face and Shio Wager. Do you guys want to say hello?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It's a big day. It's another round of EU competition. I'm excited to be here, Shio.
I am too. 20 games, kind of the first time we've seen this type of format breakdown. I'm excited to get to it.
Well, guys, we got to talk about the broadcast first before we hop into games. So let's start with that beautiful tournament format. That is what these players are playing across the next few weeks. Last week, we watched an open qualifier round, and now we kick off officially with week 1. Now, the top 300 players in every region will qualify and move on to week number 2. That is after 20 games. 10 games were played yesterday, 10 games today for every single region. In week 2 of the 300, only 80 will qualify for grand finals after 20 games. Again, 10 games over 2 days. And this is where things get interesting. For players out there that have not qualified, they'll have a second shot in the reboot round, where the top 20 after 6 games will qualify for grand finals. Then we get to the big moment for every single region, grand finals, 12 games, 6 games a day, and at the end of it, one player will be crowned the FNCS Invitational Champion. It's going to be absolutely unbelievable, so stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. Now, of course, as I mentioned, this is a global competition, so other regions have already wrapped up the day. Oceania, Asia, and Middle East, yeah, that's correct, are already done. Now, keep in mind, we're only broadcasting Europe and NA East. There will be a little bit of a break between, but don't worry, we'll get you guys up to date on the standings on all those other regions. Next up, we'll take a look at that format. Now, Monster, in the open qualifier, we saw those 4 points be extremely hefty, but we're not quite seeing the same result here in week number 1.
No, the dynamic has now changed. It's shifted. I mean, the format has stood the same, though, but the different caliber of player is making things very interesting at the top. It's almost in line with what we were expecting. We knew that this format, the eliminations being so hefty, would play a part, but not as much in this higher tier dynamic. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing of the new format. This is the first of its kind for the official Fortnite kind of competition. So I'm happy to see something kind of working right now. And it's only going to get better from here. Remember, this is the invitational process, but from here on out, you just have to make the cut in order to continue to play.
That's right. And of course, you know, placing is great and moving on, but we got to also talk about the prize money on the line for every single week and every single region. Here is the current breakdown. Now, keep in mind, this is every single week. Players will be earning themselves a cut of the prize pool available to every single region. That's awesome. Now, of course, prize money is great, but they are looking to push on through and climb to the top of the mountain to make it to grand finals. Now, of course, guys, I'm pumped. I mean, if yesterday's games were any indication of what we're going to see today, we're in for some crazy, crazy games.
I mean, you have some stars rising up. Benji was definitely the man of the hour yesterday. He popped off. The first game we saw, he was taken out. He managed to come back. It was all about a matter of mentality. I think Sancho and I harped on that for quite a while, talking about how players in solo format specifically can be a little difficult. But, I mean, Shio, we all know that Benji absolutely loves solos.
He does, and we talked about prizing, we talked about reputation. There's a lot on the line, and they want to hold on to it, right? It's all around the world, too. We have Oceania, people in first place as of yesterday. RBK Volks, he's going to be there all the way up with 38 eliminations, 236 points. And you got to pinpoint exactly how people are playing in their play styles if you look at exactly the breakdown of points versus eliminations. If you have a good balance like Volks, he'll be at the top, 236, but there's people just like him in 8th place, Looter, 36 total eliminations, 197 points. You can see possibly more mid-game fighting, more aggressive earlier eliminations, doesn't get the full placement from game to game, but it still nets him a top 10 spot.
And that's the thing. I feel like just looking at these standings in general, if you compare the placements to the eliminations and like how some people with drastically less elims are up there, like 19th and place 18th. Lazar and Mavericks are a good example of that. That's perfect. 18 eliminations versus the 30 eliminations on Mavericks, but the placement being the difference maker and how they're still both top 20 competitors, but you can play to your play style.
Yeah, there's wins all around the board as well, but that doesn't mean you'll be in the top 10 spot. It's about consistency time and time again. And still, even if you're nearby, you have tiebreakers, those eliminations matter. Forbes kind of gets his games above Nodiu all the way over there at 153 points, slightly more elims on his side of things. Spin, one person to watch as well. Alec, who I believe we saw at DreamHack as well, play it out. 15 elims, 160 points, playing that classic format of Victory Royale there for him as well, all the way down to 30th with Sorif. You can't also forget Repulse God, 1 win, 21 eliminations, 151 points.
That's right. Now we'll head on over to Asia to get a look at how things went for them. 212 points, 26 eliminations, and a Victory Royale to Kieran's name up there at the top. So, I mean, we are seeing players break the 200 mark, and that seems to be like where people will push above into top 10. I mean, what do you think, Monster? Like, do you think that we're going to see something different out of EU today? Because there was similar points yesterday.
I mean, there's definitely a correlation between the regions and how their playstyles kind of like map out. You would think Asia, coming from like the World Cup qualifier days, would have this exceptionally high elim threshold, but it's only true for OCE right now, at least according to these stats, right? You see the OCE region, a lot of players in that 30 elim threshold, really high up at the top, but things are kind of settling out in the Asian region just based off of the points in general. You can see it's a lot more about placement and, of course, being your consistent self. I think this makes it, to me, you know, from the outside looking in, feel like this region in general is becoming more and more competitive because it's a lot more even across the scoreboard. Like the points are very close, Shia.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like you can see that this region is now just basing themselves and their gameplay off of momentum. Multiple 2-win finishes out of these 10 games. We saw, at least yesterday, day before as well, and the opens as well, how hard it is to win out these games against other players playing the same way. All the way down to 30th place, still people with Victory Royale, so they're kind of cementing the way they're playing. Delta Tato right here with a win as well. 20 total eliminations, 150 points. Once again, this region very similar to OCE as to what the point layout is. 26th and 27th on OCE was 153. On Asia, 151 each, another tiebreaker. So it's cool to see how these regions rack up against each other and how they're developing. Middle East though, Phantom. We saw a little bit of a replay from him when we were waiting for the day to start. First place overall, might only just have 1 win, but 39 eliminations and 228 points, Zeke.
That's right, man. 39 eliminations at the end of it all. Not bad, especially the big key factor here is this is a competition over 2 days, 10 games over both days. So not only did players want to try and rack up as many points as they could yesterday, but now they're trying to solidify that placement that they need to try and push their way into top 300 to move on to next week. Now, of course, it's not the end of the road if they can't make that threshold, right? They will still have the reboot round to try and take that second shot. And who knows, maybe they'll make it through in the top 20. We'll have to see how things go. I mean, we still have a whole nother week, more games on the way. I mean, there's so many different things to talk about on top of how many incredible players there are, right? Because not only in open qualifier round did we see new faces, but now we're seeing those new faces pitted against the familiar faces we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and I mean, just going in general, Middle East was there was only one player in Middle East to get back-to-back wins, and that was Bark. So it is kind of crazy. There's not a lot of players in general that can say they pulled back-to-back wins during this week 1 Invitational. Commandant, Bumboy, Jack, and Bark, like literally the only players that can say that they even did that. So talking about taking it serious, talking about coming in, the expectations that I think most of even the caster crew had was kind of like low just looking at the open qualifiers. We thought, hey, this might just be a WQ weekend, but dude, the stackers of the games that we've watched, the quality of games in general, I think far exceeds our expectations. And yeah, it gets me excited for the future comp.
That's right. Now, of course, just as a reminder, we say it at the top of every broadcast. We just want to remind you guys, because we are trying that new format with additive scores, we will not be posting the final standings with the combined totals at the end of the broadcast. Instead, we will be looking those over, making sure all the points are correct, all the tiebreakers are correct, and we will be posting those to social channels later on. So if you want to keep up to date with that, FN Competitive over on Twitter is a great place to stay up to date on not only all things FNCS, but all things competitive in 2020. Now, before we get started, guys, I actually want to take a look at the standings from yesterday out of Europe, because that's going to give us like a nice like snapshot of what we should be keeping our minds on as we head into these next 10 games for EU, especially when we think about the guys at the top, right? Because taking a look at top 10, I mean, Benji was far and away with 250 points, 38 eliminations, 2 victory royales. I mean, 250 points, that's really, really exceptional. So these top 10 are, you know, if you're new to competitive Fortnite, could be people to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, I mean, also controller on top for Leshy too here, Shayo. And not to kind of just jump in, but I just want to say that Benji really broke the lead. Like, he broke away on the pack here, Shy.
Yeah, 250 points in total, almost record setting as well. 38 eliminations, something that we've seen be the top spot for multiple regions. But that's not to say, looking at, you know, the other people in the pack, Freemock, 3 total victory royales, showing that for the first time, I think, in the top 10 that we don't get to see too much or comment on, is the early games that you play out of your 10 games in total matter a lot for you. We saw him get those 2 wins earlier on in his run in day 1 of week 1. Now it's day 2. He's coming to clap back again, waiting to get that cumulative score all the way up there, hopefully another 200 points, but 3 total wins, that's huge. Cammy's there as well, very defensive player in a sense, but at the same time, no wins in total, although surviving all the way till the end consistently. Vidil also a player to note. Not much is actually known about him. I think just had his debut in the duos FNCS, so we'll see if he has more to say about his story in solos. There's so many different things happening, so many playstyles, so many journeys. I mean, this is where it all starts to ramp up.
And I was going to say, like, just look at Andilix, right? Like, let's not forget, he just came off the high of the FNCS duos, being the champion over there with Nate. So, like, he's performing in solo region right now. This is the consistency. Players who haven't, you know, quit the grind, and now it's paying off. They're pulling all the way through to the top, you know, amongst the best, like Benji and stuff. So, I mean, personally, I'm excited for these games. This is just a little snapshot, like Zeke said, of the EU region.
That's right. Well, gentlemen, we don't have to wait that much longer because the battle bus is launching. We are getting ready to hop on now, so let's take a look at the first game in EU with ShyOwager and Monster D-Face.
Oh, baby, we're jumping in hot right here. Looks like we are under the pressure of the fighting already. It's Pepe who we're looking at first here. It's day 2. There's a lot on the line right now, and I like the play from the opponent that Pepe's going against. He actually broke the bush. He was trying to hide out here, Shia. This is going to be our first engagement of many, as Kermay is going to fall.
I think it's a repeat start from yesterday as well. We saw a shotgun versus a burst AR happen to just start off the day. In day 2, it's the same. Just a little bit of action starting things off. That's always going to be random. You know what I mean? You never really know what to expect from these fights. It'll always be a clutch factor coming through from one of these players, especially in the early game. But this is the other side of things where things are a little bit more peaceful. You kind of go hunt for your eliminations. Phineas going out. Remember though, everyone here has an agenda in day 2. It's all about adjusting the mistakes you made yesterday, capitalizing on the good things that you did, and accruing the points that you're missing or the points that you need to qualify for week number 2.
It is true, and just remember, guys, there are players that came out of the opens in here as well. I just saw Majul in the feed there. These are guys that we want to keep a close eye on that I believe are on track to power on through to next week. So this is going to be a staple moment for many, many players right now. You can see a little kind of action going on here. Phineas is going to find himself a nice little pick. We're just easing our way into these battles right now, but Shark's going to be on the run, and he just barely dodges the RPG right there, Shio.
Yeah, a little bit of a escape inside that porta potty, but at the same time, you still need to end up finishing your eliminations. That's exactly what he does. Phineas with a third party quick pickup does some damage, doesn't actually get that into his tally of overall points, but at the same time finds the next party that was there as well. That's one to start things off. Momentum already brewing, boiling, waiting for things to go. And here's another fight. Although a third party with a henchman, it'll be Flame and Croc who are looking to see who comes out on top at this hideout.
This is a sneaky little henchman down there. He can definitely throw off the senses, to say the least. Croc still can't even finish him off here. There it is. He gets a little knock. You hear the screams of the henchman. This is an intense battle. He's going to jump in. He's going to find the 24. This player does not have any shield. But, I mean, Croc isn't too kind of comfortable right now, just in terms of the shield in general, and he's going to lose his now as well, and it's even playing field right now, 48 only. He's thinking about that minigun. It's not going to be enough. He chokes the shot, chokes the move right there, and Flame comes out on top of the battle.
I mean, a little bit shaky, a little bit rusty for a few people. Game 1's always where maybe if you didn't warm up, just woke up from the competition, you're waiting to get those cobwebs off and look to land shots. A little bit of mistakes there from Croc, but nothing he can, end up fixing for Game 2. We'll see Flame going on as the music gets a little bit more intense. Switching over to another big, not even hideout, but mythic POI. It's the Grotto, and Rimmick's going to be the one just on top of it, making sure he has his mats farmed out. We can look at his beautiful loadout. Looks like he might have got the entire POI slightly uncontested, or undisturbed at least. No eliminations, but if you stay still, you can find easy ones. Another nice heavy sniper theme we've seen in Europe especially, as well as NA East for a little bit. People just hiding out in the best places, waiting for players to play around them, and then capitalizing off those planned movements with big sniper shots straight to the dome.
That's what I would call like a counter to the Storm Surge play. I'm sure that player was up there just looking for tags. Most players will kind of prep up right here because of how likely it is for someone to use the glider, just like Rimmick just did, to get out. So unlucky for him to actually be caught in the crossfire right here, as he's just trying to play his route. He's going to have to get back to the drawing board here, and Rimmick is going to kick things off with a good 4 points, as he's off to a good start right now. Now he's got a big decision to make. Does he want to go into the grotto and continue to see what he can capitalize on as far as loot goes? Or is he going to take this as a small victory and move on? There's still a lot of loot here. Notice he's looking around right here. And I mean, just according to the map, if you bring your attention down to the bottom right, there is still a player in the grotto.
Now I'm curious to see exactly how and why he even got to get all this loot without even having anyone contesting him, but at the same time having so many people around him on all these mountains. Another third-party fight, a push, planned, patiently waited out as well for the right time to strike. It'll be Julian Calm, who we saw a lot of in the duels FNCS, just attempting to get things done, especially in mid-game box fights. The speed of him working around his partner as well. This time, though, he's going to be on the back foot. Just a little bit on defense, but surprisingly finding a way to get straight into the box. Attack shotgun operating at maximum capacity. A nice early game pickup. The brick there as well. And a little bit of celebration. It's good to start things off with a nice little laugh.
It's just feeling like deja vu. I mean, yesterday we watched Julian do something similar here. He pushed a fight on the shores of the beach. We were talking about kind of how, there's action on the side. It was on another part of the edge of the map, but I mean, Julian's going to find himself finding another one on the edge map. So it seems like that's just his playstyle. He comes in, he third parties, catches takes advantage of the positioning here. But we're off to the next scene now. We have Tokar, who's in a low ground here. He's popping that big pot. It seems like he has lost momentum of the fight, and now he's trying to bounce back in. Desperate here now in the low with 18 HP. He's going to connect a few times, and the AR is going to find its mark every single time right there. It's going to be enough to get him back. Nice little flopper to reward himself with.
I mean, right now in Game 1, it's one of the games that you have the most information with. There'll be stackers. We saw the way Rims just, started off the game with a big heavy sniper playing to that counter, as Monster mentioned, with that Storm Surge. At the same time, these are also the games where you can test things like Julian Calm, go for fights earlier on. Flame as well was doing the same thing all the way at that henchman hideout. Get into these one-off skirmishes time and time again. This is the biggest time you basically have for these kind of tests, all this room when no one's sure of, should we be playing aggro? Should it be more so for placement? You can kind of define that, and if you're the operating person to start these fights, control them, you'll have a lot more success. So if Flame actually gets on the front foot of this and pushes first, I think he'll come out on top. Right now, the opponent he's fighting runs away. He might have a chance for a beam back. No, it's a bait by scroll wheel reset. A wall block as well, as he gets shot up hard inside a big box where all the builds are not his. Monster. This looks drastic.
Yeah, and he's got that pressure of the storm right now as well. It's basically ticking down as the sands are starting to run out here. What is he going to do? He's going to pop the big pot here and really try to gain as much advantage as possible. That means he's deciding to go all in for it. Remember, the defensive player right now has two floppers, so scroll wheel reset has to make a big move right now. It's time. He's going to pull that trigger here. Notice the mind games, trying to weaken some walls, really deciding which one he's going to go for. The edit bait right there. And Flame has already drank or ate one of the 2 floppers that he had. So this is Scrowwheel's last opportunity now, as Flame still has a lot of time on his side here. And there it is. He's going to counter fire back. You know Scrowwheel's very weak. Can Flame find one more shot? It's looking really close. Time is ticking. He only has 1 flopper. No, he's not going to find it. Scrowwheel gets the siphon and gets the reward of the flopper, which is going to cap him off and be just enough for him to potentially make it out the zone right now. We don't know how far he has to cut across. That was a close battle.
I mean, I guess people are already sticking to getting as many points as possible, no matter where the game is going. A long, drawn-out storm fight that we don't actually usually get to see this earlier on in the competition. Over here, a big surprise at an upgrade station getting baited out. Nekin looking for a way to accelerate his competition, and he's trying to get in that box. Does land with 1 tack, gets some shots through the stairs, and now he has all these extra mats to strengthen up his loot.
It's looking good. And don't forget, guys, if you're just tuning in from home, you are here for the start of Day 2, the European region. We're just getting things going here as we're approaching the 2nd storm wave. Day 2, Game 1. The tensions are high. I mean, I feel like yesterday was literally the tester day, because this game right here in general is... There's a lot of action going down. Players are very, very much confident and are looking to make a big performance today. This could just be because they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. They know the exact amount of points they got yesterday. They know the way they rack up on the leaderboards versus all the other playstyles. They play towards their strengths, and that's earlier on, getting big moves done, like Ketzon over here, getting into fights, finding beams. Then that's good. They're going to keep going for that. But the problem is, if 40 people are doing that in the server, you'll have people sporadically just jumping into fights like we've seen all over the map. You'll have storm fights break out for a long time. You'll have things that you don't usually see, and an abundance of it might just make the game so chaotic.
Definitely looks like the best of the best are cleaning up the debris here at the start of the rounds right now. Just really kind of wiping it all away. Don't forget, as the games go on, as the points begin to stack up, lobbies will become tougher and tougher. So I think most of the competitors, if any, right now are understanding that they can do this right now. They can take advantage. Even Benji himself yesterday was taken out early on, but once things got going, he really continued to stick to his game plan and really pick him up. I mean, he had 38 eliminations come to end of the competition, so we'll see. There's Sebi trying to see if he can get this player up here, trying to get this attention of the opponent right now. He doesn't have a lot of the walls right now, so he's kind of in a tough situation. Not to mention, he's in the water, quite literally. It's a clear indicator to the opponent up above that, you know, this is the layer he's on. There's no hiding from that. Such a distinguishing sound when you're underneath someone's build, especially when you're in the water now.
And Sebi's been one of these players who actually has, I think, the most experience compared to anyone else, multi-region wise at least, playing in the NA East, the Brazil region, and now finally residing in Europe. Just has had a fun life of moving time and time again, but always playing Fortnite no matter what. In the same box, though, he's going to be moving straight out of Victed and out of the first game of the competition. Lazeri is going to be the one to have 2 eliminations to boot up. A nice place to actually reside just for now. As the zone moves in, he'll have to relocate. People already in the zone looking for a way to do exactly what he just did.
Nice little engagement right there. Unfortunate for Sebi. Here's Joey Jenner now, who's on the run. You heard the heavy sniper shot come at him. Let's see if he is going to risk it all by not building right now. He does have to be very, very careful, as there's someone coming in from the back of the storm line. He finds his way here first, though. This is going to be a free opportunity to kind of pressure the player. And no, he gives up. So he sacks all that material to take height and then decides that he wants to jump into the fight confidently. Catches Alice. Doesn't even want to give him a moment to catch his breath, regain any stamina, get his health up or anything. He jumps right in. Now he gets to get all the benefit of the loot.
And he gets to move out. You'll see the way the boxes are kind of being made for a lot of players right now. A lot of these box fights that started to develop earlier on get people paused in their tracks. Not specifically in their own game plans. Now they're on the defensive side of a reaction to the way other people are playing. Razor is trying to find a way out. Not even that. Possibly now a way straight through his opponents. At the same time, look at where the zone is. Look at the other people waiting for these fights to still divvy out and get points, possibly easier than finding them late game. Razor now on the back end, on the back foot, gets taken out. That's Capsino who finds that one. More loot. He needs to move on.
And I also saw in the feed, Julian Calm went down as well. As much as we were rooting for him and his early game aggression, it seems like he got put with some stopping power come to mid game right now. We'll see how that plays out for Julian. Will he be able to bounce back as well? Just that fight in general, Razor has some really good movement. I don't know if you guys noticed, but to give you guys a little insight, he was going left and right on those ramps, making it really hard to trap. Capsino just capitalized on all the shots, though. Tactical shotgun, one of the better ones for the room of error. You can continue to fire, and if you miss, you can still follow up with a good fire rate. It's got great damage for close quarters, so probably my preferred favorite here. He's got a rotation to make, though, being on the backside here. He's got somewhat of a freebie right now. I think it's just the opportune time right now to move across while everyone else is focused on the same thing. Looks like he's going to catch a nice free builds from the enemies here to go through.
I mean, it's kind of deceptive as well, because when you have these late rotations, yes, at first it's really free, but then look at where people base up, especially near Dirty Docks when you're at that retail grotto mountain. It'll be very difficult once you get to the zone to find a space you're comfortable with, not only just to base up, but to get shots at, get picks with, like Evil Delta's doing now, and then be comfortable to rotate off of as well. We've seen the dynamic of these end games when they're about to start moving towards half and half, the later mid-game portion of Fortnite. You have to be in a favorable place to move to the next zone. If you're based up underneath other people, they can force you out, bait and switch your rotation path, and then you're in trouble before you even know it. The mistake you basically made in positioning 4 zones ago will just mess you up in that one that you actually have to move in. Right now, Delta is on the aggressive foot to find another elimination and go for some more loot.
That's right, and talk about mistakes and things of that nature. You got to be careful. Delta's give up his good positioning here to get into the thick of it right now, so really putting the cards on the table. Can he find another one? He is, and now all the rewards are going to be his. It's all his loot. He's fully capped off. Look at how much decision-making he has to make right now. Does he want to take the boom bow or keep the sniper, take the extra shields? A lot of opportunity here for Delta. Capsino's still on the back line. He seems to have gotten tagged up. He no longer has shields to kind of work with. Shio alluded to this before, but being on the back now is going to be a pain in the butt to make the rotation here. He doesn't have any heals either. It's going to be kind of a rough one. Just look at Tads. He's going with the early rotate. It's over a grumpy old mountain, though. Let's see how this is going to play out for him.
And he's moving early, which is really good because you can see the indecisiveness of literally more than half the lobby on the left side. People still jumbled up. If one person moves, someone desperate might go for a tag. 50 people left means that Storm Surge, as of right now, you won't have to worry about. But at the same time, these little movements, moving slightly late, if you're on the path of actually getting speed like Tads is before everyone else, you'll have an opportunity to have a say in these other fights that are going on way far away from you. You'll notice that when people start to get into fights, go for tags, they'll have a little bit of a checklist earlier on. They'll kind of see and survey where people are around them. If you kind of wait for that checklist to happen, then move afterwards like Tads did, you might catch people with their pants down and then just have an easy shot. And now LK, moving even later than Tads, although he doesn't have speed, he'll have more position. Because if he doesn't have a say in all those fights, he'll watch them break down, then pinpoint the positions that are very good for him to base up in. That being said, even more people can move later than him. Crystal, another layer above him. LZR were with him again in another box fight. He's going with the same pattern. Doesn't care about position. He wants more points and more points. That tactical shotgun, as Monster mentioned, is still racking up so many points. He's not even missing. He's landing 2 shots back to back to back.
Take a look, that was Delta, so we know Delta was loaded up on shields and material as well, being that he just came off of a slew of eliminations himself, so it's going to be a great delivery, a great elim for him. And this is such a weird interaction with the zone. If you just look at it, it's the circumference of the ring of Dirty Docks. That's where all the players are. No one's really set up inside the POI itself. This next zone, 2 seconds left before it reveals itself, is going to determine a lot for the lobby. And oh boy, it's going to land on a good chunk of players right now. There's a lot of decision making to be had here. These players are now going to have to cut out and go what I believe is up the terrain right now.
Yeah, Dirty Docks. It can go literally any way. And right now, it is going to be a mountainous terrain. Could fall off at any moment. We could get an aquatic zone. At the same time, we could double all the way back to the grotto, possibly, when it comes to that 9th one, depending on where all these moving zones go. But here it is. All the early rotators have the high ground for the whole server, and they all still need a move-in monster. This is going to be a really rough rotation.
It's going to get tough right here. The plot thickens. It is the mountain. I thought it was. Play this game long enough, you just start to learn. You don't even need to need the map all zoomed in. You just know, like, ooh, that's mountain territory right there. So things are going to get interesting. I hear the launch pads going out. Players are cutting across to see what LK can do here with the backside of the zone. I mean, he's going to have the superior vision over most players. That's a good 60 shot right there as well. I mean, he's connecting with all sorts of individuals right now. And he's going to find a freebie right there. Vagram falls down. Can he find some more, though? This is 2 elims already for LK. Pretty good start to the round today. And look, you can see players like Capsino still managed to find his way, even from the worst of the worst of the rotates. But he still hasn't found shields. He hasn't capitalized on any big elims. See, Patek falls down right there. Another favorite from yesterday. There's still some very familiar names in this lobby. One being Kaiser here, Shayo.
Kaiser's looking for his own way to kind of survive in this mid ground. Won't have a say, like we saw Alpha have all the way up at high ground, not actually getting the top spot, but just working out of his box. That's exactly what he's going to try to do as well. 2 eliminations is kind of the pattern we're seeing from a lot of these players who are in prime positions. That being said, this is where all the points will have to be accrued. At the same time, survival will have to happen. 15 seconds till the zone moves, and right now everyone is just so ever set on stopping free rotations, getting those placement thresholds after the fact. This launchpad breaking means rotations for that entire side. The whole community of a block there will be hindered and stopped. That'll make it so much easier for Kaiser to stay in this prime position to land shots. More launchpads will have to be put down to use, and there it is, the first one coming through. One and start of many more. There's another launch that he looks to kind of break down, if not capitalize off of. Now it's time to go. He starts to move. No launch of his own. Has to find something to recycle. Doesn't have it straight up just yet. Might just have to be a natural rotation, but in trying to find things, he gets beamed down and now is in a lot of trouble as the zone is moving very fast.
Kaiser has been the bearer of bad news for this entire side of the map right now, really shutting down all the recreation of use right here and there. Just the shots on that player right there is going to be the end of him, and now he gets the siphon rewards as well. He's still in this game right now, following enemy builds. This is the end game moments right now. Rotation, decision making, timing, it all matters here. Kaiser doesn't have anything left. He needs this shot, and no, he's going to get taken out. It's Kayland who finishes him off. Take a look at height. You get a little kind of glimpse of what's going on up here. It's just chaos right now. It's movement. This is moving zone territory. And it's such weird terrain. It's going off the mountain now. The elevation's so high, Shayo.
Fastman Tads goes down. Now it's all up to wind all the way up high. But as you mentioned, that mountain now getting removed from the equation of this end game. Everyone has to just try to drop down as fast as possible. That being said, low ground will have so much more to deal with. They can't just look up and try to beam. All these players are very experienced with that waterfall move, the tech to get down, connect up, and not get beamed, succumb to fall damage. Wind will be here early. Doesn't get much of a say on what's going on around him. 3 builds left. Needs that recycle. The heavy sniper is not going to be something that Kinzel can actually land, I believe. If that wasn't him, that was someone else, possibly Kaxi. We'll see Wind moving up. 3 more eliminations. That's his 4th. A big double bang comes through. And now he keeps moving on box to box. Topped up with a few materials. Not enough to actually push off on the competition, but a bounce back saves his game for a few more seconds as he looks forward for more opportunities.
He didn't get to grab the mats. He did not get to refresh at all. So we'll see if he can grab some more here. Wind jumping down early was probably the best decision he made, having to drop on enemies as they're trying to scramble, trying to understand the lay of the land. He's got the advantage. That little bit of information is all that separates him from the rest, as now he's once again leading out the push here, the aggression. This time, he is going to go for the material count as he needs it desperately right now. And he's going to find a flopper as well. So into the zone he goes here. He's going to drink 1. He still has another. 5 more seconds is going to buy himself here on the clock right now. The sands of time are ticking. Can he find his way into the zone? He needs an elimination right now. And this is going to be a siphon. It's exactly what he needed. The zone's going to favor him again this time. And now it's going to rotate off the side of the mountain. Lucky him. Lucky him right now. 5 enemies remain against him.
He's surviving, but still making things happen. The 2-tack attack Shotgun Warrior. As Almas is all the way on high ground, Win has another opponent. He stops down. Kalen bites the dust, and now it's all up to Anarchy and Almas to try to stop this big momentum that Wind has, although doesn't have height. Probably in the best position he can be, especially with low materials. He's just thriving right now, waiting for his next opponent to fall into his builds, into his trap. Falls down once more, controls everything down below. But it's so dynamic the way things are actually developing. Another big 160. He finds and makes it a final 1v1 as Dono goes down. He launch pads up, gets the high ground, 20 builds available, starts to hold it, and Monster, he might be able to just wrap up this entire game.
There's nothing like a good gust of wind on a sunny day here as Wind comes all the way up to the height now, and it's against the grappler, so he's now going to lose it as well. This is just a back and forth engagement right now. Can he find the shots? He needs to. He needs to look up. He's going to pad up again. He's not giving it away for free. This might be the vital error, though. Can he land? Can he make him choke? He kind of does. He needs one shot here, and it's going to be just enough. He finds Ulmiz. My gosh, we never get to see launch pads effectively take height, let alone twice in an endgame, Shayo.
I mean, hey, bounce, bounce, bounce. Time and time again, you bounce up grappler players there too. It doesn't matter. Whoever's looking higher and landing more shots will be able to win that game. This time it was Wind.
Guys, that was a crazy game number one. The back and forth. As soon as he dropped and he eliminated the player in third and he gets the first launch pad, I was like, okay, he can make something happen. He goes up, and then Monster's like, no, this guy's got the grappler. He goes up. I'm like, okay, what are we supposed to do here now? The second launch pad, and at the end of the day, you just gotta make sure your shots, you can hit your shots. And that's exactly what Wind did. That was unbelievable, Monster. That was so crazy.
I mean, it's one thing to, like, you know, just watch it. It's another thing to cast in real time. Looking back at it now, he really put everything on the table. He wasn't taking second place for at all. Like, he wanted first or bust. And, I mean, he made that play happen right there.
Yeah, I mean, on low ground, he was basically utilizing Earth, not letting anyone stop him down, just two strong legs in the ground, tack, time and time again, fluid like water when he's moving around all these builds, trying to find a way up, strikes like fire with every single shotgun shot, and then his natural element, he's in Wind. That's his name too, launch padding time and time again. Such a clean game. I didn't expect him to win, especially in a situation. He had like no mats in a pyramid. That's like, you know, drastic. That was just amazing.
And this is kind of highlighting the beauty of the two-day format, right? Because yesterday, Wind was in 415th place with only 51 points. And now, in day number 2, he starts his day with an incredible game like that. Not only is it someone that I'm not super familiar with, and, you know, granted he didn't have a great performance yesterday, but now he can say, all right, look, world, what's up? The name's Wind. You watched my play. You saw the plays. You saw what I just did. That's pretty sick, right? Wind? It was. It was very sick. Talk me through this game, Monster. What did you think? It's like, obviously, this is the first game of the day. It felt a little bit slow. And I think this is the classic, like, just first game jitters. Would you agree?
I think in the beginning, like, things kind of ramped up. Players were just getting dropped. We wasn't sure what the lobby was feeling. Come mid-game, it's good old-fashioned what you expect. People slow down. People realize, all right, I've made it this far. Let's not throw it away anymore. All of a sudden, they get into serious Fortnite mode. And the end game, I mean, it was stacked, even against the terrain there, going up a mountain and stuff. Some difficult terrain to navigate. Players made it happen. Capison was like one of the ones that we can highlight. I mean, he didn't have any shield and stuff, but he was still masterfully rotating, still found himself in the end game. So you got to respect some people like that, Capsino, that can still rotate really well with no shield. So tough game for some, but I mean, we saw some new stars rise out of that one. That was really cool.
I mean, in a game like that, I think in a fighting game, the term is footsies. In game one, it's all about just throwing things out and testing the way people are reacting to, you know, every single situation. We saw that in the beginning with a lot of box fights. Julian specifically, Monster alluded to it. Yes, he's always looking for third parties, but he's testing things first. Dropping down, going for attack, going for a wall, seeing do I have the better ping, coming back up, playing defensive. And we saw that literally everywhere on the map, right? Decision making, testing. That's all about game one, Zeke.
That's right, guys. Well, it is time to get into game number 2 of the FNCS Invitational in week number 1. We're hopping out of the battle bus. Let's send it back over to Monster Face and Shy Wager.
Thank you, Zeke. That was an exciting game 1 right there, Shayo. I got to take my hats off to you. One heck of an end game to cast right there. That was a lot of fun. For everyone tuning in, guys, it's day 2 of the EU region here. We're only just now highlighting our second game of the many that are all existing right now. It's a 2-day format. Players like Win, who didn't start off at a great foot yesterday, today's their day to come back, make a big name for them, see if they have the consistency that it takes. That's what I love about the new take on the competitive kind of structure that we're looking at right now. So stay with us. Follow the stories that's going down here. Milan's finding some shots here. And he's already ripped the shield off. It's actually a little phase floor foot shot right there. Shio talked about footsies. I mean, Milan just found some action right there from the foot.
Yeah, he's getting tags all the way around. You have to try to get as much as you can, flick on angles that you might not even know exist, react to all these fights. When it comes to Misty Meadows, it's all about holding down your house and then, you know, making sure people don't invade it by any means and find fights of your own as well. Right here, another trap set up. This is going to be DX and Nilo looking for any type of way to catch this player unsuspected, unaware of what's going on. But I have a feeling he is kind of tagging on to where he might be. Not sure who can come on top on this one, Monster, but it'll be explosive once it starts.
That's right. There's Zypher Danilo. He's looking to find a little cheeky shot right now. He's definitely looking for the ambush play. He's going to find some shield, but now the trade back means that he doesn't have any shield either, and the enemy knows that. The confidence, but he can't connect just yet, and now they're on even playing grounds. Danilo's going to find the shot first. He's going to connect more. And even with the shield advantage, I mean, the better player is just going to win. There's no excuses right there. So well played to him.
That'll be all the action at these early game POIs. This is the other side of the coin. Still near Misty Meadows, Milan will look for his type of more scavenger loot path antics. All the way up top, more so looking for beams and damage. And trying to translate that pressure into points later on. And points are like kind of the overall name of the game here, right? In a game, always you're looking out, you know, building to building, rotation to rotation, but overall on the leaderboard, that's where you really cement yourself as to what's going on. There's people at the top spot hindering. I believe Benji is trying to hold out his lead against Lecce right now. Milan himself will look to up his kind of works all the way through. You want to make sure you hit the top 300 today. Right now, Milan is hitting that damage number, almost to 300 with headshots back-to-back.
And it was the easy indicator, the campfire showing that there was a player here. Remember, they only last for 30 seconds, so he knew he had to be close by. And because of that, the cabin was the clear giveaway. Now Milan's jumping in, looking for the box fight here. He already hit for 124, and it only needs one more shot now as SR4 falls down. Milan with a nice, clean, quick fight. He's going to take the Mythic AR, too, from that.
That will be a huge damage boost, especially that we've seen so far. He lands those shots so clean. Right now, Castry versus Boyer up into another big fight. No footsies here. It's just all in. Quick action. Every single build ability from these players used. A door edit slowing things down, but at the same time using that slowed momentum. Castry has a surprise edit onto Boyer at the same time. Doesn't find it. Boyle will have to land a big shot here on the back end. Not as many builds available as Castry. A surprise edit. It's going to be that triangle that sends Castry all the way to the edge.
This is a big fight here. Two exciting names right now. Castry and E11's Boyer, both of which are veterans to their own right now. This is close. It's fair game. You can see the reaction speed. This is super high tier fighting right now, to say the least. Boyer on the run, knowing how to change elevation, play the mind games, never being too still to be tracked. Castry still trying to apply pressure, but, you know, maintain control of the field by healing. Never too much, though. Never too slow to give away his advantage. As Boyer now has the high HP lead right now. He's looking for the turnaround here. Let's see, it's Castry who's on the back foot now. They're in the box. Once again, Boyer's going to find the mark, as does Castry. It's still 50-50. It's even game now. What is Boyer going to do? He loses height once again, Shio.
Has to try to pop that 50 potion if it's possible, but right now it feels like these guys are just heating up so fast and not going to slow down possibly to heal or even let each other. Castry does not have the same tool set, the same loot that Boyer does. He has to all in for the shot. Boyer with the advantage, although at a lower elevation, lands the attack and then moves on, gets to have 4 more points for his overall score.
It was the shield potions. I think him just faking them out over and over and switching back to the shotgun, so ready for the shot, was just enough mind game to play to his benefit here. As we're jumping to Carton and Milan. Milan was already on fire. He found himself somewhere. Misty Metal. He had an Elim there. Found one at the lake. Now he's trying to see if he can find one at the agency house here.
And Milan right now, to put it into perspective, every single elimination and fight he's in, currently in 322nd overall, I believe. So he's looking for a way, at least from yesterday, that's where he finished off on day 1, 63 total points, to push over into that top 300 after today, adding everything up. So this fight on Cartoon will be huge for him, but he's going to be taking big trades right here, Monster. He needs to now find a way to end this fast.
Is right. This is a big swing that Milan needs right now. He needs the elimination, so he wants to get back into the swing of things right here. As Carton is putting the pressure, he has that heavy sniper, and he is going to find the shot too. Now Milan is on his heels, and both players are going to hit pretty much a little reset right here. He's going to have to heal back up. I don't think Carton has anything extra though, so this little moment that Carton probably had an opportunity to really swing it around, he gave it away. Milan's already back in the running here. Let's see now. He knows where he's at. He hears the wood kind of stomping around there. Sees the fresh builds connecting. What is Milan going to do? He's off to a really good start. Remember, the longer these fights go on, the more likely they are to fall behind in resource gathering and zone positioning. Carton goes for it, and it's not going to be enough. Milan's going to find the shotgun shot right there. And now, 17 points here for what might be his first game.
Yeah, he is already rolling straight out of that gate. 64 players left alive means placement has already been kind of divvied out and actively being handed out in all these different thresholds. You'll see it flash over the map on the right time and time again as we commentate through these games. It's changed up a bit. It's no longer the top 25. It's all about now actually accurately handing out placement past the top 75 for all these players. Top 10 is where you get a lot of those points, a majority of them being handed out all the way from 10th to first place individually per placement. Milan, though, has that heavy AR, as Monster mentioned. Put it to good work, but at the same time, his back is always going to be with the tactical shotgun in these close-range fights. He connected a lot of shots there, and we saw him take that pit stop, use a little bit of his shields. He'll have to find a little bit more here, at least in the mini department, to be able to have a safe endgame.
It's true. Don't forget, your overall performance will still lead to some prizing. There's a lot to be made these weekends, so outside of the pressure of just performing and trying to make it through the finals day, there's some money out for grabs right now. There's some bounties in the air here. Every interaction means that much more here, this late into the competition. Milan really feeling himself right now, though, being hyper-aggressive here. He's going for it.
Yeah, this is the perspective of a player that wants to claw and climb right back into the top of the competition, onto the top pages of the leaderboard, and he's still on that hunt, trying to push people down as he rises, and that heavy sniper is answering his beck and call as well, landing shots for him. This is not going to be the right decision, I think, for someone who just got sniped running to jump on a launch pad, especially against someone that he didn't know, obviously, who had a heavy AR, landing one shot in the air. Milan will be off the hot press looking for more shots, and nothing landed by this individual. That was his only chance to kind of balance out the power. It's going to be Eric of damage in this fight, and Milan's on his wall, Monster. He's looking to finish things off.
Love how he did that too. Milan was protecting his kill here by putting the walls behind him, really boxing in the prey. As he jumps into the water because of the enemy who was on the lake right now, whoever this person was, tried to be really, really cheeky here. And Milan was ahead of the curve there, already anticipating what was going to happen. He's 2 steps ahead. It's Blakey who's trying to come in right now. Milan doesn't have any shield, though. What's he going to do? He jumps into the box. Will this be the end of Milan's terror right now? He launch pads away. This is a risky move. There's multiple shots coming in now. He's not safe. Not even close to being safe just yet. It's Ghost Camo who's pushing in, Shayo.
Yeah, the gamble for that wood almost paid off, but it was only 10, and now he has no mats available or left. One individual with a burst AR, Camo on the top, and Milan, although will kind of get a few more points on the board overall, stopped by one of the behemoths of the region, as now 59 players are left alive, and there's more fights to be seen all the way around.
What an interaction right there. For a second, it looked like he was going to be able to really ramp things up. But now Camo finds Milan. He puts a stop to it. Milan will have to jump back into the queue. Camo already on 3 eliminations, so still a strong beginning for him as well. He takes a pop shot at Blackie, and he takes him out. It's down range. That was the player that was just breaking down the build, so he can't escape the eyesight of Camo either. Let's talk about eyesight. You have Left Eye up on the hill here on the right side of the mountain now, who's firing down in. Let's see, Camo wants the loot, though. He's thinking about it. No, Left Eye's not going to make that easy, so this engagement's not going to be one Camo can take right now.
And he's got good loot available for him. A lot of people would say, and would used to still say also, for endgame. But this entire combination of what Milan had before and all of Milan's enemies will allow Camo to base up, go for box fights as well, not only play for the final moments of this game. It'll be Caxi who's going to be based up right beside him. Mongrel, someone we haven't seen too much of on the broadcast in the past 2 days, will be updated for us in our eyes, based up by himself on one of the left sides of the map. We saw how players on the edge side of zone, especially at this instance, start to move out, pave their way for a top spot in not only the end game, but the competition overall. It was wind last game. This will be day 2 for Mongrel. We'll check in and see if he needs to claw back or hold his throne all the way up on the leaderboard.
Mongrel is such an exciting name. Always one with the crazy antics, to say the least, on stream, and just a fun, bubbly kind of person. Day 1, he wasn't up towards the top of the leaderboards, though, so he is off to quite a depressing start. I mean, players like Milan, too, who are way down in, like, the 400 range, you know, overall for day 1, means that they have to step it up. Mongrel will need to do the same if he wants to catch up. We're going to need to see big elimination games. We're going to need to see big swings, maybe some victories as well, if he wants to qualify through to today. He's playing smart right now, though. Really tempered on his draw right now. Notice he's not firing away just yet.
And Mongrel at the moment is at 77th place at 117 points, at least at the end of day 1. So he's looking to get even higher there. So far already qualified, but remember, 2-day process, 20 total games. If you only have 10 good ones, I don't think that'll be enough unless you're breaking big records with 400 points or something in one day, which we haven't seen happen so far. So we'll see what's up right now. Danilo once again on the boxes of many players. It'll be Specky on defense, though it'll land a big pump shotgun. No tax needed if you're this methodical. The Zypher player goes down.
There it is, little dance on it right there. Okay, Specky kind of jazzing it up a little bit here, getting his vibes going. Gotta appreciate it. Once again, you can see Stompies in this game, Mongrels in this game. I see Lanouf. A lot of very, very good competitors, very strong competitors in this lobby right now. Here's Lukey, who's rotated right behind Specky now, and oh boy, they're all just stacking on top of one another here. Lukey's got the RPG. He's looking over at Mongrel's box right now. He's deciding what does he want to do with it. He now turns back to the storm line. Someone else gets close. Beautiful shot. Good tracking right there. He lands a shot on Lowless here. Take a look at the stacked players right now. It's Stompy, Mongrel, Specky, Lowless, Lukey, all just sitting on top of one another. This is a scary position to be in right now.
And Lukey's one of the most decisive players when it comes to utilizing every single thing that he has in his loadout. If an RPG is out, it is going to get shot. He will find damage afterwards, as we just saw. At the same time, there are edits. There will be shots taken after the fact as well, trying to battle for control for both these pieces. We'll still control both, but now Lukey will slow down, not look for more shots. 0 eliminations right now. A nice surprise RPG to possibly drop down the player up above, but a cone, a pyramid, will be able to just keep him up there for the time being. Look at the mini-map. Look at the overall layout of the land right now. So many people just held up, trying to reserve as many materials as possible. But this zone will not be friendly. It'll be a bunch of water, a lot of hills. These guys will have to move fast. Lukey, though, might not be able to move at all. Has to get through. this instance first, and oh my god, on the top of his head, a player dances. Lowless will now be left lifeless as Lukey finds him not landing shots. Him himself, though, responds with 2 attacks straight to the head. And now, Mongrel hears all of this happen above him. Lukey chooses what he needs to get to move on. Stompy spectates as well as he reloads his RPG. This instance is not over yet, Monster.
The question is, why haven't they moved? Why are they still sitting here? Are they waiting for a launch pad, or do they have one, to say the least? Because when fights are happening, these are the perfect times to rotate. So I am interested to see the decision making as we're kind of sitting right here on this side. Specky's out of here. He's hitting the road, and as does Mongrel now as well. The timing seems just right. He hears Specky take off, and he wants to trail behind. Stompy's doing the same now. This is very, very good plays by all of them, choosing to rotate at the same time. Good timing, and Lukey gets to walk away without needing to engage on any of these Titans here. What you're looking at right now is Stompy get tagged up a few times here, Chayo. It's Nespit, Froxy. Mongrel's still on top of him.
It's the barrier. Although Mongrel is on top of him, just look at the entire lobby making a big wall, basically across on a lot of fronts, both high, mid-ground, and low. Lukey will find Bailey, who was trying to rotate as well. Stompy, who was getting pressured before, gets to get some release, but it'll be Lukey now with a very destructive loadout, giving up the rocket launcher to get a drum gun, and at the same time have that long-range beam still available with the burst.
What a nice find, because he also picks up that prestigious launch pad, which is going to play so well into the half-in, half-out zone, especially if it doesn't pull his way here. A lot of water dividing the landmass here now. The field is split in two factions, the left and right sides. There's no space for an allegiance in the middle, not in a solo game, not at all, as everyone is an enemy here. Let's see, though. You see Boyer is in this lobby as well. This is a very, very exciting lobby to be looking at right now. Let's see what Kezix is going to be doing here. He's got 5 floppers. He's going to cut all the way across here, Shia. It's going to Lazy Lake.
Yeah, this is going to be the travel along no man's land. It'll be Kezix who moves in first at the same time, even though such a clean rotation, especially right towards an airdrop. He'll get beamed down. We'll have the hard mats and be early enough to not get super focused by the entire lobby, but then push, I believe, into someone else's box close by the side. He does have a chance to refresh his launch pad and get possibly another power item, but it'll cost him a lot of materials on this defense. He has to act quick here. You have to choose to either heal or take the package, the third elusive option, though. Get the big beam and a huge reward. It's Sky's loot that was in that box. Another player on the door for the package, but now Kezix has a free way to rotate in. Not sure what that player was doing, but Kezix has one of the best loadouts in the entire game all of a sudden. And another gold
That is true. I was going to say, it's another good weapon falls from that as well. It's the gold tactical. He doesn't even want it. He's comfortable with the pump. My gosh, talk about a huge come up here. Kezix may have took what would be the biggest gamble in the lobby, and it does pay off. He's rewarded with the best solo loot possible, all for the drop. Here's Mongrel. He's looking back at the zone right now. There's someone in the storm. He finished 77th on his first day overall. It's not too bad. He did have a victory, so he's somewhat middling in the competition right now. If he can just continue to kind of play A-OK, he will be qualifying for any of you Mongrel fans out there. He's looking pretty good right now. As the information was coming in. That's a good RPG right there. Now he's looking for the shotgun follow-up. He only has a tactical, though, so it's not going to be very effective at longer ranges. Nonetheless, that RPG does so much damage. 130 if you get connected with it. And he gets zoned. He gets favored here on the 6th zone right now.
And while he's doing all of this, finding this loot, getting a gold AR, which we saw him in every single mode operate with at maximum efficiency. Now it'll be the operating weapon to complement the rocket launcher, and he's trying to find the shot, and it'll be Snuffs that actually, or Snuffles that goes down to Jason. Mongrel doesn't get to have the same that elimination or the points at all. Camo has been picking up points all the way around on the other side of the map as well. Boyer's right below Mongrel. They've been side by side in a lot of these big bases, time and time again. Looking for another launch pad to possibly get on top with an item also in this game as it starts to finally move up and get hot and heavy. It'll be Mongrel moving on. Has the tarp available, the trap set up, the build's controlled, but doesn't find anything around him. Instead ahead, blocking people off, moving past controlling where they go, and Jason picks up another one off of him as Crack gets a big pickup. Belvede goes down, and now Mongo has to catch up with the rest of the server. It's absolute chaos. People in the air, on the ground, and on their builds too. What will he do next?
He's running low on material now, though. 150 material to his name. That's 15 builds. Just a few tarps ahead. He needs a frag, or he needs to jump off this layer, and he falls down to his death. When I said jump off the layer, I didn't mean like that, but unfortunately, Mongo is going to fall now. Still, before getting rewarded for the big placement points, as he kind of left this lobby prematurely, Shayo. That was tough.
Tough indeed, but we're going to be tuning in with other people who didn't make the same mistakes. We'll be back to see more as Kezix wants some more. A huge loadout here, but he didn't start off with it. Let's see how he adapts of using that grappler. Has the Mythic AR. This is just basic fundamentals of having positions in Fortnite. It's pinpointing exactly who is where on the zone, where they're going to go next, and then getting what you need to get after the fact. Has a lot of floppers, but at what cost will this loadout take damage? I know you can have those floppers to use immediately. You need refreshes, but if you get beamed that hard, it's going to be very hard to bounce back. This is where the grappler must be used. Sees one more person left up in the storm, has the combination and gets it down. It'll be Vibes who gets claimed. Another refresh and more floppers into the inventory. Now that mythic item starts to get active. All the way for height he goes, and the player sees him coming, so it'll be an absolute fight possibly if he wants to control that high ground. No, stays mid. Kezix still lives on and is very healthy on materials.
He picked up so much material from the zone, like Shayo just said right there. This is enough for him to take height right now. Typically, this late in the game, height doesn't have a lot. It's very unlikely that he does. With the grappler, with the max mats, I mean, he's got a lot of opportunity here. He feels like it's too much of a risk. He's going to jump down and play into the low ground kind of tarps now. He's still not giving up height, not for sure, not for free here. Up he goes, and it's his now. Can Kezix hold it out, though, as he has the grappler? There's no way he can lose it now unless he makes a vital error, or an RPG does kind of ruin his chances here. But he's looking really good right now, Shayo.
Yeah, he has the bait and switch mentality of baiting people out, knowing how they play, getting height over them. But does he have the power? Obviously in the loadout to end the game, but the play style needs to land every single shot, make the right decision on who he targets here from height. It'll be mid that he focuses first, pushing them down into fights low ground, but every single elimination he misses, yes, is a placement point, but 4 elimination points he doesn't see. There's one quick beam though, all the way to low now, box to box with item. He looks for a little bit more pressure. 500 wood still available, but acting like he has none to force out a build fight, and now claims up top on the item, drops him down with his own builds. Pressure still there from the AR. Kezix still in the mind of his opponents and has the loadout to answer any questions they pose as threats, and he gets another quick pickup, making it a 1v1. He's trying to find a way to finally let things go. 7 eliminations, finding his 8th. A lot of minis available. That big shock and eluded not to get the tack. Is this the reason why? Does he have the accuracy, the power to end the game? Finally popping up the heels, waits patiently. The edits are there. And Kezix, from start to finish, dominant and staying in the shadows and striking when he sees fit. He'll have another win on the European region.
Love to play. So smart. Debate on the no wood material. What a good little read right there. That was really well played. That was really well played.
And there we go, guys. We see the mythic weapons back in play, being the cause of another victory royale. I mean, what do you think? What for you guys was that defining factor, and what made Kezix get, like, what was the turning point for Kezix, right, to win the victory royale there, Monster?
He gambled. He played the biggest risk ever, was going for the launch pad, the actual drop, to trade a launch pad for a launch pad and loot, knowing that the server would focus in, and what he gained from that was multiple eliminations and a grappler.
I mean, when I look at the standings too, the one thing I see from all these players, Wind, Nyrox, who actually, although he's at 50 points now, was in trouble yesterday in trying to qualify 464th place overall afterwards. It's the basketball reference court vision. They see things as they develop and know what to pinpoint. We saw it last game from Kezix, going for both a airdrop and after that getting the loot he needs, knowing what it can do, where to go after that, playing in the storm with floppers. Right now though, it'll be the balance of elims and placement that's letting players off of their first games stay and have a say at the top spots of the leaderboard. As we go for the second page, a lot of these players who were in trouble, Marcus C as well, who was, also not in the range to be in top 300, is 12th right now, 41 points, 6 eliminations. Jason, we saw last game, have a very good strategy of letting people pressure first and then finish off eliminations, a lot of them from Mongrel's pressure with that gold AR. So a lot of these top names are finally rising up, fixing the mistakes from yesterday, Zeke, and performing right now.
That's right. We'll flip on over to the third page there. Letwick, familiar player there in the comp scene. I mean, Monster, it's not... We're still, like, pretty relatively low point thresholds, right? Like, it's still anyone's game. Any one player can have an incredible pop-off performance. Sundown talked about it yesterday. We could look at a 50-point game just from a Victory Royale and a handful of eliminations to kind of jumpstart your game there. So, we're still pretty relatively calm, I would say, but for a lot of these players, they are picking themselves up, ready to go. Any final thoughts before we go ahead and head to our break? Quick thoughts, Monster?
Yeah, I mean, we're still in infancy of the competition. Anything can happen. There's still some big names to come up, and remember, the lobby's going to get tougher and tougher as it goes on.
There is moments of celebration too, because there's some players, as you mentioned, it's one of the first games, right, who've already doubled their points from yesterday. I mentioned Nyrox, he had 43, now he's at that 50 range. These players are looking good, but it's all about finishing out and playing the rest of the 9, having a good run.
That's right. Well, Fortnite fam, that wraps up the first 2 games in EU. Now, don't forget, we have another handful of games to play for the rest of the day. For now, though, we are going to go to break. So what you need to do is get up, go get yourself a snack, bring back some water, sit back down, and let's keep this ball rolling as we hop back into EU after this break. We'll see you then. Welcome back to the FNCS Invitational. I'm your host, Zeke, and joining us for the next set of games, we've got Sancho and Bala TW. Gentlemen, as we get prepared to head on in the battle bus to the island, let's go ahead and talk about things we're looking to see as we get ready for these next set of games. I mean, we should probably talk about pop-off performances, right, Sancho? Because we're still pretty early on in the competition.
Oh, no doubt, dude. We just saw Wind literally with the winds of change, changing his destiny, going from outside the top 300, getting himself, catapulting himself all the way into contention to no doubt qualifying with that big 65-point game. And that's what it's going to need to require you to get qualified going to the next weekend. Wind got like first place currently right now in day 2. And what the whole thing I want to say is there's so many players. We talked about Mongrel a little bit in that cast with Shio and Monster, that they have that potential. We all know that the people that we root for could pop off at any moment. And with this format, with that 4 eliminations and then the top 10 impact elims where you could kind of multiply your points, that will be huge. And this is all about redemption for some people, and Bala talked about Nyrox as well, and Nyrox had that same kind of situation earlier.
Yeah, and I was pointing him out because you said the winds have changed for Wind, but I think it's the road to redemption for Nyrox too. Was out of contention by a long shot. I think he was around the 450th spot in day 1, but now sitting in the top 10 in this leaderboard. I think for somebody who's really trying to make a name for himself and show that it's not just a duos performance in the World Cup with Aqua, but also can perform in solos. That's another person though, Aqua. We haven't quite seen him. He was slightly out of contention too, Zeke.
That's right, guys. Well, let's see if these guys can turn things around as we head into game number 2 of EU.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Day 2 is all getting set. The tensions are kind of out. The day 1 jitters, as we like to say, has no doubt ironed out here, Bala. And we're on board here with Finscoot. Got himself a bandage gun. And, no doubt, Bala. That's the mentality when we talked about this professional games, trying to figure out and work your way through your own mentality, but as well finding that game sense of how everyone else is going to play. How do you see the rest of day 2 unfolding as we're heading into the middle of the games here, Bala?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a complete opposite thing that we saw compared to the open qualifiers, where quality and intensity kind of went down in day 2. In day 2 here for week 1, I think we're going to see this get more and more intense, because not only are people trying to fight for that top 300, but there's also the fight for the top between players like Benji, between players like Letchi, who from their day 1 performances are trying to double that at least to try to hold on to the top spot, because there is significant prizing on the line. I think it's $15,000 for first place today on EU. We're watching another early game fight here at the weather station. Finscoot does find one, but there's still another one, and that was NLE, a player that we saw a little bit of yesterday. NLO, sorry.
Finscoot got himself on the board with this forward elim. No doubt someone else is kind of running around. Goes for that reverse edit right there to try to be a big surprise, but Scoot was prepared. Gets a couple of nice hits right there. And there it is, Freddy getting sent back out of the server right there. Finscoot taking that nice 2-piece, getting himself 8 elims, and it all goes into the butterfly effect. And now we're going over to Capsino, as Monster and Shia were talking about. We're having a big day today for Capsino, sitting with 14 elims, has a nice high ground right now. And take a look at the format that you see and how important making placement plus elims. We've been talking about it throughout the entire broadcast, taking a look at the leaderboards throughout the different regions. If you could get both together, you're going to be looking very fine right now, as Capsino is doing his best to poke and prod and get himself inside of this little cabin, which was always having the Christmas trees, the Nutcracker cabin here. I've been seeing so many fun troll clips, but here Capsino's not trolling around. He's not messing around, Baller, doing some great, fantastic pressure here on his opponent, letting him use all his resources, and there it is. Eventually, Tanks goes down to Capsino.
And that all actually stemmed from the structure itself. When he ran out, tried to get himself a little bit more space from down below as Capsino pressured him against that back wall, you couldn't actually place a floor above him. So he left that open for a second. You have to place a cone because there's already a pre-structure there. We are moving back to the agency, and we're seeing many fights where they're basically pressured into a spot where they have to move out. And you see the players reacting to this, kind of expecting when you have somebody back against the wall Their only move is to dive on you. Their only move is to push in. So if you expect that, you can pretty easily get the pre-fire shots out and the advantage in the fights. And we've seen the agency a little bit throughout this week 1. The influence of the drum gun, clear. But there's 3 players here, and this is one of the reasons why this is not one of the better spots in this week 1, is because it's so many. Every time you try to sneak out, there's another player getting ready to attack.
It's interesting, Bala. What would be a great agency run? Is it just walking out of here with that mythical weapon? Is it getting into the vault? What would be a whole waste of resources and efficiency as we're seeing this build battle between Zyrax and Skullwheel making a return back into the cast here? Zyrax, Skullwheel goes down right there trying to get that high ground. But what would be a failed sense, or like an opportunity for you? What's a successful agency run? Everything? The Kid Caboodle, the Vault, and the Midas Drum Gun? Or, one or the other?
I think it depends a little bit on the situation, how many players are there, but it's the same as anywhere else, right? Have a good base of heals, have a good base of materials, and hopefully have good position. The great thing about the agency is even if you fight for a long time, there's plenty of positioning benefits from being there, as it's in the center of the map. Verse starts things off with a double dink. The Verse AR doing good work and following it up with a tack shot. He did get some heals off, so this isn't all the way all in yet for Verse, although he might be. As he gets him on the back foot, he's in the box now, but the edit comes through. It's a pump shots. Oh, that was risky for a second there. I thought it was going to turn the tides, but he does win out in the end, and he has the shields to get right back into it.
Verse pretty much sending Mitch on Instagram. Hey, that's the branding we're talking about, baby. Hey, you want to use the name changes, put your Instagrams and whatnot. But Sezo TV here with 7 points in day 2 has another. I think that's Scully attacking him right now. Now Sezo's on the defense, loses piece control right in front of him. So now he's doing all his best. Didn't have that camera advantage that we all want, and Scully does what he does best, getting 15 limbs, but another challenger enters the fray. The third party is here to try to catch someone with their hand in the cookie jar, and it is Flame on the high ground. But that's what we talked about in the last time broadcast there, Bala. Even though you may feel like you have someone at a disadvantage, and Flame realizing that, like, wait a minute, I don't have the surprise attack anymore, I'm going to go ahead and back off.
And the key thing for third parties there is listening and making sure that they know what's happening in that fight, know whether damage has been exchanged, so that it will be a positive and easy look in. Milan, we saw a little bit earlier in the broadcast, somebody who was out of contention, trying to make his way in. He's at 33 points right now, possibly around 80 combined. But he played so aggressively, and yes, he got the eliminations, which is probably why he's at 33 points, but fell because of how many strong players were right next to him. I think he ran into Blackie, he ran into Camo, and because of that, he's still stuck down a little bit, so needs to have a strong performance today to get through. So far, though, I think it's pretty good with the 33 points after probably 2 or 3 games by Milan so far.
No doubt Milan trying to do a better performance as day 1. He catches them right there and is rewarded with floppers. You talk about the day 1 performance of Milan. He had 63 points, so already he is outpacing himself. He's going to be doing very well today in day 2, and we're seeing that in these with all these top level players, that the day 2, they're figuring out what they wanted to do. They no doubt went into the VOD reviews. That's always important. Bala, yourself doing those VOD reviews out there on your YouTube. I got to pump you up, gas you up too as well. It's so important as any pro at any video game to look and judge yourself and critique yourself to see where are the holes in your game, as Otav is doing his best looking for the holes in his opponent's game, trying to get in that piece control, trying to use that tack as a way to break down the builds as hard mats is going out and we have a battle for high ground. Otav might go for the chop here, looking his best to try to get this opponent down to his layer. Almost catches him. There, he pops him right there, and that it looks like that was almost one of those situations, but Otav gets surprised again, Bala, and now we have that third party, as you mentioned, the other opponent listening right on cue, noticing that Otav did take some damage, and now we have that opportunity. As I like this box fighting here, Bala. I like it, trying to get the little piece of that corner.
Yeah, just that one edit piece. trying to break it from the range where Kaizen can't shoot back. And we have seen Kaizen's partner fighting around Misty Meadows against Milan earlier in the day. That's Blackie from Squads. And he is in this fight. 2 French players, I believe, or French-speaking players, I think, from Otav and Kaizen. Kaizen, you remember him from the duos, had so many strong performances and was one of the more consistent players with Clements. Now in solos, see what he can do. Right now, he's definitely putting the heat onto Otav.
Otav trying to do his best to survive this third party. It's interesting. We've talked about it earlier. Blackie actually has a tendency to third party. He did that in the previous game. He kind of sniffs around and listens with his ears, of course, to find that opportunity. He is an opportunist, and he's going to have this opportunity to get the 4 points, and he does. Actually, that was Kaizen. I'm sorry. Kaizen, the opportunist in this fight. Blackie was around, sniffing around, so it's very important to see how many of these engagements, and actually that was a very high engagement. Last time that was a detriment to the previous match that we saw here on the broadcast, as 4K is looking for an opportunity to get some damage on Kaizen.
And the way that happened for Kaizen, you were mentioning how he started to approach that. It was from height, but that fight went so high, as you pointed out, that it was kind of awkward. He was trying to surprise them from that high elevation, but in that case, it overtook him, and he had to come from down below, so the surprise factor was no longer there. Here's his tactic, Sancho. You played in NA West yesterday. We were talking about getting easy rides to placement points. I'm going to put you on blast. You might hype me up, but no. Monkey Man 613 is in the shack, and this is what I'm going to call the Sancho Cheese Classic.
Listen here, brother, when you have bushes available, when you have little corners to chill in, this is free placement points and a heavy change of the tournament, man. That's what you got to do. Hey, do not look at my stats, because I was just trying to get a vibe of it. I mean, I am in the NA West Invitational invitee, but I try not to be a free 4-pointer. But yeah, man, this is smart. This is what Shio likes to call positioning, and this is very prime positioning here for Monkey Man. He finished the day 1 with 21 points, already doing really well in day 2. Poof, pow, surprise! Monkey Man jumps out and grabs that banana that he's been looking for. 24 points, but hey, you see what I'm saying? It works. It works, Bala. It works.
Absolutely it does. That was great for Monkey Man. Knowing that the zone was going to come in this direction, knowing that somebody would peek their head into a shack or a small house that has the door closed, that the loot is still available on the floor. And one thing that he did that was really nice in that fight, not super complex, but he uses SMG to start. And when the stair came up, he actually switched so that there was a full clip available to continue spraying through once he got through the stairs, and there's nothing you could do. You see the tail end of another SMG spray in what looks like a very similar situation optically. It's the player there. And both of those guys around the 20-point mark. And I'm wondering if that is their day 2 score. So possibly, if we're thinking of day 2, if they performed in the same fashion in day 1, they might be on pace to qualify in the top 300 right now.
And that's all is the name of the game today. Just get to the top 300 so you have another week to get into the top 80. And of course, if your day ends today, you still have an opportunity in the rebound. Monkey Man now out of the cabin, ready to attack with the confidence, going full aggro right here, trying to get himself into the box with brute force here. There it is. He got right in there, and there it is. You mentioned right there, Bala, having that SMG fully loaded and gets us Saiyans right and out of the server. And he has Midas' drum gun. So I'm expecting Monkey Man to go full King Kong on the rest of this lobby.
George of the Jungle, we're in Weeping Woods now, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of Monkey Man in the future, because with Midas' drum gun, he can move on and do exactly what he just did. Get in the boxes, surprise people with the aggressiveness that you normally will not see in a 60-man lobby in third zone. No, it's not Storm Surge, but still, risk is there when you engage in these fights on the edge. There's so many people boxed up in good positions, ready to shoot at you. If you get into a fight like this from Capsino, good thing, though, is that they're up on the hill, so that everybody in that woods is not going to have the line of sight to actually third party. But he's still careful, still making sure that there's nobody playing edge. kind of coming out to the zone, ready to engage in this before he goes forward.
Capsino looking for a clean fight right now. It's a very rare clean 1v1 this early kind of third circle game here. So we're going to see what happens now. The sound of the storm just comes out, and these two most likely will start moving and trying to figure out how they're going to do the rotation. But you know, you try to limit the time you have your back towards an opponent, because then they could just take that opportunity to beam you right in the back. But Capsino has his opportunity now, sitting on high ground, doing his best to pickaxe anything that he can. Tac shotgun, pickaxe. You're seeing the techniques. Razina opens up the box here, looking for an opportunity to just get this guy off of him. Capsino still applying the pressure. Now he has the green light, and he sends him right out of the server. Razzie does his best with some great defense early on, but it's just not enough to hold on to. Capsino now with using those tree lines as cover, guides right into circle zone, the safe zone right there.
And something to note about Capsino, his day one performance was only 44 points, slightly off pace, but so far he's higher pace than that. So hopefully he can maintain if he wants to qualify for top 300. And plays like that are going to be what makes the difference. Outside of zone, a safe fight that you can get extra loot, get refreshed on materials, get the shields that you need to actually perform in a game like this. And also starting to accrue some placement points too, as he gets into hopefully a solid position. Though edge zone makes it difficult to rotate as this fourth goes. But look at the density of players. It's actually fairly spread, which is not something I expected to see at this stage. Maybe in week 2, maybe at grand finals, this spread of players might be something that I would have expected. But for this stage, usually you'd have these congested sides. It's all over the place today.
Baller's referring to the mini-map. You take a look, and all of them looks like a nice little polka dot. Usually you will see one side. No doubt, maybe that north side right on that tip of the circle there might be very congested, but you said so yourself, Bala. It's all spread out, and Milan is actually doing really well. It's one of the top people to look at in day 2. It's kind of like, you know, Tiger Woods out there. We're not yet at the red shirt, the red polo of the grand finals, but we're working our way there. And for those of you tuning in, this is the FNCS Invitational solo style action day 2 from the European region. We're going to have NA East coming up later on today in the broadcast as Milan catches someone on the trying to get into his little area right now, and Milan is now being aggro, going all the way up using that technique of the tac. The tac does so much damage on walls, and you could keep up that intense pressure with that high rate of fire. A lot of resources is being used on this opponent.
I worry here, though, for Milan. This was somebody who was pressuring him for quite a long time. This may be a little bit of an emotional play, but he makes it work. But what I'm referring to is that the zone was going to start moving if he did not wrap that up, which it quite as well could have happened if Dark Areno could have held on a little bit longer. This was going to happen. Milan being held out of zone. He's still making the rotate on the backside. Another player, too, Capsino, we mentioned that he was on the edge. Optily, too. As they go down this hill, yes, it's through the trees, and I said the line of sights might not be there, but all the players who are in there are looking back, looking for people who are on the outside to take shots just like this. Optili gets right on top. The cone was phased. He does get beamed a little bit, but still has a lot of HP to work with, and his opponent, which was Capsino, does fall, so he doesn't have to worry about that too much further, and he's in zone now.
Looking good right now, heading into the 5th circle, which would be the half in, half out. And you're going to see the circle pick a side here. So Optili looking for an opportunity to hopefully get that side going in, but he has to be careful of the opponent down below and all the gunshots happening. A third person is now picking at him from below, and he's still trying to hold it. The harpoon is trying to take the floor away from him. Luckily, Bala, the 5th circle, is so close by, so he can take some time in this fight and not have to worry about making that big-time rotation.
100%, and there's already players blazing the trail for him down below. I saw Jamside from VP making his rotation already, so that might be somebody that he can follow up on. But hold on, there's a heavy sniper in the box. It's Julian Calm. He gets aggressive. He knows that there was just 2 eliminations taken by Optili, which means that there's 2 eliminations worth of loot in that box, possibly a launch pad. Julian Calm does get that, and now has the luxury of being able to pick the rotation fairly easily. Milan on the backside of this, though he doesn't, and only 67 builds. He might be able to make it towards 5th. He misses the opportunity for the community launch pad, opting to go over towards these 3. Where I don't think there's anything here, Milan. I think these guys were waiting just as you were, but there it is. And he finds one on the outskirts, another launch pad too. So I'm confused. There's 2 players here were holding on to launch pads while Zone overtook, and Milan now gets the spoils, but riding in high, late. I'm still a little bit worried. That's why he waits for a second for the tree line so that he can swoop in afterwards with all the builds in his way. Well done from Milan.
We're seeing now the congestion now forming up as there's so many competitors inside the circle. It's going to be very heavy on the south and north side, which is where the border of the storm line is still open. So a lot of the players making their way as much as possible to the north. And as we're going to see to the next circle, it's going to be the rotating circle. Kaizen picks up an Elim right there. Milan is somewhere sitting really middle of the pack, so he's looking really good at qualifying for the next week. But the people that we've been seeing that you're watching here, folks, Optically, they're all still on the bubble. So those are the people we're going to be rooting for the rest of the day, because we want to see people succeed here on the broadcast. As we're on board, where's Resurrect? He's sitting with 11 points total for the day, and he has himself a decent position here now on the low ground. There's so much builds here, Bala, all over the place, and so they're gonna have the opportunity to recycle through. But Resurrect YZY gets the big Elim right there and gets a nice refresher. We kind of talked about it prepping for this broadcast, Bala. These are what are impact Elims. You could get resources, you could get ammo, and more importantly, you could get closer and closer to the top 10 so that we could really start accruing points.
And the players on the edge are going to have to overcome tiebreakers most likely, as Milan is one of those. And you got to be careful with those, because if you're not all the way up the top, that tends to happen. He's got to maybe get a win, and he is going to get in the box and get an Elim. So maybe performances like this, if he does pop off, if he does get a 10 in elimination top placement, and maybe he doesn't need that. This is so solid from Milan. Remember, he used that launch pad. Remember, he was fighting with only 30 builds to get in the zone. Right now, back up to 68. He has floppers if he needs to dip in and wait for just a brief moment to actually extend the resources that he has. So far, it's looking very, very good from Milan. What looked like a shambles game.
Shambles game turning around to its finest. Bala, Milan doing his best just to keep going, to keep surviving, using those floppers. Right now, it is a 10-tick storm. For those of you that never made it this far in a crazy game in Arena, 10-tick is very, very dangerous. Of course, it's almost max damage, and Milan does max damage with Meowscles Pew Pew, getting the job done, now sitting with 61 points for day 2. Some big-time performances from Milan, using a nice stair tunnel, and we're taking a look at the overview. We have Scala on the top, Monkey Man still alive, doing his best, going from branch to branch, and Flame we saw earlier in the cast, and actually Scala does take him down, but now we're on back with Fast Roki. So now we have different situations kind of happening all over the place, Bala. Low ground, mid ground, and high. Right now, you want to try to do your best to get the high ground, because as always, high ground is king, but you can still be that low ground warrior and get so much resources on the low.
And we are looking at the mid ground from Fastroki. He's going to look back through his old tarp, and that takes out Monkey Man, who made it to the top 11. So good placement there, but he gives Fastroki the Midas drum gun. Trulex, I believe, is the player on height. And Fastroki opting to see if he wants to go dip in his zone for a couple little builds. And I think maybe harpooning what he could have would have been nice, but I don't think he actually saw any builds in that. And for now, 2 eliminations for him. A pretty decent layer. There's a player down below him. He tries to box it entirely up for situations like this when somebody tries to go up and into that box. He's ready for it, and he is going to edit down, possibly take a shot. Yes, it's on the driving. And that's now 3. Trulex has lost height. It's Jamon, and Julian Com is second. Milan's still up, by the way, in this game.
Fast Roki sitting on the outside of the top 300, not in it right now, doing what he can to get himself in as Milan falls in the Elim feed. We're on board here with Fast Roki, sitting with 36 points with the power of the Midas drum gun. We're in a top 4 situation, ladies and gentlemen, and Fast Roki needs to do all he can to qualify. You don't want to get this far, and Julian Com actually just goes down to fall damage. Fast Roki doesn't get it, and now we're in a 1v1 situation. So much loot available for Fast Roki. Yeah,
he needed to go into that to get the loot because he didn't have enough to actually play this, and with the flopper, you could take the zone. It's Starliu down on low ground against Fastryu. No materials on Star. He needs to hit the shots, and he doesn't. It's Fastroki who hits them, and after what looked like a scary moment for a second as there was a player way, way up on high ground, it was Julian Calm who ended up falling right in front of him, and to give him a little bit extra to win out in the final 1-versus-1.
There you go. Congratulations there to Fast Rookie for picking up that victory royale. As Sancho mentioned, he's not in the top 300 yet. He needs another 10 points if he's looking to compete and be pushed on to next week. So he's got quite the battle ahead of him. Now, gentlemen, this is obviously game 3. We're going to be taking a look at 7 total. How are you guys feeling? Sancho, I'm coming to you first. About the performance from EU today.
I mean, you're seeing it's opening up a little bit more. I mean, the EU, it's all spread out. It's not really congested as it normally is. And what I'm excited about it is that we're seeing still, you know, that aggression of getting into boxes with SMGs and things of that sort, and the Midas drum gun still being a factor. The day one was all about the grappler, and we saw a little taste of it earlier in the games, but it's still showing, you know, the...
I think we might have lost him. Did
oh no, he's gone. I believe so. The Sancho cheese was too strong.
I think that what I'm seeing in EU, yes, there are a lot of people who are pushing up with these performances, the pop-offs that we're seeing. But one thing for sure is that it's not over. Everybody we saw on day one is still competing. Everybody that we saw perform and have those performances up in the top 50, up in the top 100 are also rising just with everybody else. So it's possible that we'll see those names come back. One thing I'm missing though is we're not necessarily seeing those names at the top. Some ones that we saw yesterday, Benji, where's he at? Lecce, where's he at? Is he still actually vying for the top spot, vying for first place over both days? That's something that I definitely want to keep tabs on.
Do you think some of that, because like if you're Benji, you got to assume he is trying to make that first, like that #1 spot. That would be such a great story.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, but first back-to-backs is incredible. But do you think some of it might even lend itself to like, hey, I had a really stellar performance day one. Maybe I just need like, if I'm comfortable if I get like 100 points, right? Like, do you think there's some of that? Or do you think these guys are all trying to play their hearts out right now?
No, I absolutely not for those in the top 5. I don't think there's any of that. I think we might have seen that a little bit from players who just want to make sure that they make grand finals and have their performance there. And that is an element that I think these guys are thinking about, is pacing themselves. I don't think you want to waste. And I say that with the caveat that, of course, players can still have these stellar performances like Benji, but there has been an instance of people wasting their best performances earlier on in the tournaments, in the open stages, in the semifinal stages. You talk about sometimes the semifinals curse, or the first place in heats curse that happens in FNCS, where if you get first in heats, you don't do well in grand finals. So that's something that they kind of have to keep in mind, is pacing themselves a little bit, not getting too far ahead of themselves. But don't forget, there is significant prizing on the line for these games. First place in EU right now is 15,000. Second is, I believe, 12,000. And I think next week it just gets even harder.
That's right, man. Well, it's time to kick it back over to Ball TW and Sancho West. Let's get into game number 4 from EU.
Yeah, I'm right back in it. Let's do it. Window 2 here with the 11 points. And we kind of talked about it, you know, big time performances could get you into the top 300. Fast Roki getting himself into the top 300 after that game. So that was a big time performance, Bala. And this is, of course, day 2 of the EU region. And this is a very interesting place to land. It's one of those ones that kind of came up as the season progressed here in the chapter 2. And I kind of like landing here. This is not like a kind of like I would say a total scavenger landing, because you get some good chests landing here.
Yeah, 100%. And also the ability to get really, really nice fights involved if you get some good loot, and Windows clearly does. And already the third party's got extra C4, which you don't see that often these days, but in these early game fights, it does have a big impact. Something to note is that there's probably not too many materials on the back side of this, but it doesn't matter for Windows Z2. He dives right in, does not opt to actually make this a war of attrition and get his materials down. He goes in, gets the loot, gets everything, and also not much spent. And I talked about it. I talked about how I want to see Benji Fishy today, and he does have 59 points on day 2, so definitely up there in terms of the performance and scores. We haven't seen the standings in a little while, but last time we checked, it was around this scoreline. So Benji is pushing his way back up, and probably still in first, though. We need to know, where is Lecce? Where's Andalex? Where's players like Vadil and Cammy, who were all in the top 5 yesterday? Are they also doing what Benji's doing with 59 points right now?
Benji, day 1 performance was incredible. Most single game points was 73. Most 10-point E-Lane games. So he's a trendsetter, and he is setting the pace, no doubt. And you mentioned the people that are very close to it, and now it's a kind of like an opportunity here, looking for that opening that Benji was doing earlier in day 1, the perfect positioning, the sneakiness. And Peeker, I think Peeker has no idea that he has a shark in Benji. I know he's just a little fishy, but no doubt Benji's a big time shark in the EU, and there it is. He's taking those little hits, and now we have a fight between Benji and Peeker. Peeker's going to do his best to get on the defense as Benji's going to work his way to the high ground, using the SMG to make that wall weak, and now it's almost gets caught. Now it's an opportunity looking for piece control as both are going at it. Does that little feint, catches the guy down below, gets right in. You know, it's just a matter of time as Benji catches Peeker, gives him the pokey. Woo! The pokey emote, of course, is one of the icons emotes in Fortnite. Did you pick that up, Bala? I picked that up. I had to have
100%. I picked up every single icon emote, even though I don't find positions like Benji where he can emote on people too often these days. But regardless, something to note about what Benji Fishy might be thinking today. And yes, we are clearly thinking that he wants to get first place. That's something that Benji is very hungry for. But when you think about how it's going to unfold for us in these tournaments, we have a couple more rounds before grand finals, but he wants to try to clear out his spot. He wants to make sure that he is alpha as possible. So he might be waiting for that. I thought that originally that might not have been the greatest engagement for him because of how much time was invested in it. But he wants to make sure that that player not only does not qualify, but if he does qualify, he does not go up against Benji Fishy in the next rounds. Retail row uncontested for him would be a godsend going to the grand finals.
Jenner, that we have see on the cams right now, had a day 1 performance of 55 points. There's somewhere that was kind of started the day off on the bubble, considering the magic number was in the 60s. So he's still very, very close of contending. He still has to be very consistent throughout the rest of the day to make it, knowing that we have a nice fight here as Joey Jenner gets in a little scrum as well. He still has that kind of I kind of feel like even though he has high ground, that never is the alpha position anymore. It used to be in earlier days, but things could turn so quickly as Jenner gets 130 and the green light is on and the pressure is on, and Kryzak gets eliminated with that great pressure from Jenner. But you know what I mean? Like, we kind of saw that with Mr. Savage. Yeah, even though I'm on the back foot, that doesn't mean you're going to win this engagement, Bala.
100%. I think more than anything right now, it's about who has the HP lead. I know that's obvious, but the position about high ground versus low ground or anything like that in these box fights really don't mean much. I think the biggest battle is it is a war of attrition. It is getting these trades, favorable trades in a sense, where you can make sure that once it does come down to the all-in, once it does come down into each other's boxes, it's much more of a risk for somebody than the other player, right? That's what you want it to come down to. So just getting these little tit-for-tat trades when it's really, really good player against other really, really good player is important. But the other thing to think about, too, is the material imbalance as you move through the fight. Who is being forced to use more? Who is being used to spend more resources, not just in material, but also in HP? The small shields, the big pots, the fish, all of that will indicate a turn in the tides. But again, if you have used those, that doesn't mean that you're out of the fight. It just means that maybe that's the indication that one side is winning.
And oftentimes when you're playing for placements, if you're taking the scavenger routes, you end up not necessarily, you have to rely so much on what you grab and not take those kind of fights that you mentioned that use up all your resources, because it kind of affects the rest of your playstyle the rest of the way. I mean, if you start off the game passive and then all of a sudden you expect to ramp up to be aggressive, that's kind of a big leap to switch gears between the two. No doubt there are players out there that can do that, but it is certainly difficult to set up the entire placement. As we see Lizen right above Mex. Mex had the day one performance of 50 points, but switching gears, Bala, it's very difficult to do, because essentially if you set yourself up one way to all of a sudden to change midway and make sure you get some, you're gonna have to rely on elims more than anything than like farming or refarming, things of that sort, as Mex is now in deep trouble as Lyson getting down without the shield. So that means we're gonna have a good old-fashioned box fight between the two. Lyson getting that opportunity here to try to put more points on the board, a 4-pointer right in front of him. But this is what Bala was talking about earlier. A lot of his investment in that, and now that you're in the storm, some HP is being invested. He does have the med kits to kind of get that back from him after this fight, and he does have the big pots, and no one's around here, so this is going to be a clean fight between the two. Lyzen, Mex, again, with low health as well, because he couldn't have an opportunity to kind of heal up. So Mex is now on the ropes, but he turns the fight of the tide right there and gets the big bop. The floppers being a big key factor, and he didn't have to use a lot of resources in that fight that we mentioned, Bala.
And thankfully, Mexi does have the tide in his favor. He can just drop down and get into that. And we're looking at CRR against Crystal with Benji Fishy also beaming at the same time, a third party. I do want to add some context to that fight. Mexi is a veteran in this Battle Royale mode in the competitive scene. He is a veteran. He usually plays with a lot of different top-tier players, and he was in the FNCS duos performing well. And then the player he was fighting against, that was Lyzen, was the console EU FNCS winner. Now Benji Fishy gets involved with CRR, I believe, and he is going to take it out. Ooh. Maybe a little bit of ego there for Benji Fishy, knowing that CRR maybe just got that elimination, and Benji says, no. If that is CRR, I want to make sure I fight. So not only can I talk about it in Twitter a little bit later, but also I put the fear of Benji Fishy in CRR's soul as he picks up the one and moves on.
No doubt, man. I mean, there's a thing about the names. You know, you see a lot of people with respect putting Fishy, putting RR. A lot of fans out there, so maybe Fishy got himself a couple here. Some nice little diagonal tunnels to get away, to give himself some distance. Using a lot of hard mats here just to give him this opportunity to breathe a little bit and assess what is happening. Now you get to see this kind of like Benji is what I like in the fighting community. He's downloading his opponent to see, all right, what can I get away with, and what do I need to do to make sure that I win this fight against Jinnah sitting on the high ground. No doubt knows, we mentioned that kill the elim feed, knowing that he's going up against Benji, so might be going for that sweet ever so flightful cloud. But again, you go toe to toe with the big dog in the fish, gulps him up. Nah, not today. Out of the server you go, Bala.
That's what happens. You chase a little bit of notoriety, and if you can't actually hang with the sharks, you'll get mopped up right into the sea.
But you gotta go for it, man. I respect that.
He has a free path into the rest of the zone, kind of after winning 2 back-to-back fights. And I wonder, we have a lot of stats guys in the community. I know this is a tall ask, but I would love to see the RR clan versus the Fishy clan. Who's actually leading in the war, at least in the solo FNCS Invitational? Clearly the leaders, though, going up against each other, that's one that I think people are going to talk about.
Mo doing his thing, using the heavy. We've seen it a little bit in the broadcast. It's a great utility item. It's not just for the hot, long-distance snipes, but you could use it in your box fighting out there. It's something that it's very interesting, the timing that I've seen a lot of people use it in, where it's just almost in a blink of an eye. You're right in your opponent's box just like that, but this opponent is doing a very great job of just dodging and so much time. That is another thing that we want to harp on, that time is a big factor, and it slows down everything that you need to do. Continuing on, as Mo, though, has been eliminated as Lusa does the thing, and now he has some great tools in his arsenal, hits him with the L. I'm liking it. You see the competitors, Bala, getting a little bit loose as they're getting more and more confident. I'm going to take a quick look at where Lusa is in the pack. Lusa is actually sitting, let me do the math. Very well for himself today. I mean, I almost had it. There it is, 200 in the 200s. So pretty solid. Yeah, actually, he had a 106-point day one there, Bala. So this is one of these guys that kind of a slow start today, but I'm expecting a big-time finish for him, especially in the big time here. We got Benji doing his thing.
I think Zeke alluded to or asked the question, basically, if people are going to be kind of chilling a little bit in terms of how many points that they want to get today, just so that they make sure that they get in. Lusa might be on that path, because right now he doesn't have too many on day 2, but clearly put himself way above pace for qualifying in day 1. I think to be comfortable, he wants himself another 50 to 70 points just to make sure. And here we go, another. This is something that we talked about yesterday when we were watching Benji, is that he tracks these opportunities. He looks for it. If there's a opening, he will take it. And he does find himself a launch pad and forces a base to be built, and I think he actually wants to get in on this fight, and I'm not sure why. He got a little bit of damage done, but he wants to go all the way in, and oh my goodness, he takes the back wall and the cone. That is piece control at its finest. He has no room for escape, or he leaves no room for his opponent to escape at all from his box, and that's what Benji Fishy does best in these mid-game engagements.
What are those, the classic quote? He's like, I'm not trapped here. You're trapped in here with me, and that's what Benji's just basically saying. Yeah. So that was a big time play right there, and it's very fascinating to see the high level play of Benji, and it's interesting to see that he's kind of opening it up. I think he's trying to make a statement game. No matter what, that he's on top of the board. This is going to be a statement game, as we're here with Patek. Patek getting hit right there with 9 points on the day, and now with only 31 HP. So all this is going to collapse here on Salty Springs. We saw it a little bit earlier in day 1. It's being a factor for it. A little old school POI action. It's always great to see. But Patek right now doing his thing. This is a very high battle, and catches his max that we saw a little bit earlier today here, Bala.
And that was such a meaningful fight. Both Patek and Mexi were off pace on day 1. Patek even more so, I believe, than Mexi in this case. And only 13 points for Patek. Mexi did get a couple of elims in this game, but he certainly wasn't all the way up. He only had 50 points on day 1. And with the 20 or so that he had in this, he's only at 70. And I think that's still off pace for qualifying. And these are two legends and veterans. I talked about it earlier with Mexi in the competitive scene, at least in EU. And it looks like Patek getting a little bit way too aggressive, actually. Drawing the ire of the entire server, and he will get knocked out as Luca has enough of what Patek is doing and also decides, maybe I'm not going to make it out alive. I might as well just go for the free point, or not the free points, but the opportunity for this 4-pointer off of Patek.
We'll kick on another bubble player looking to bust other bubbles along the way, and that's what's so dangerous, being on the edge of that top 300. And you know, a lot of people are just pulling each other down, as we saw Thomas out, HD in the distance, no doubt having that heavy. Jason here with a heavy as well, with 50 points on the day. So this is going to be a great start for him, and seeing how he's going to do. And I like the heavy sniper. I mean, the heavy sniper is still one of those things that you reward those sweet, sweet headshots that you're looking for. And Jason now using the cone technique to peek around. This is going to be all out in the open. We had a lot of circles a couple of times around mountains, around bridges, around the lake. This is going to be a good old-fashioned, old-school POI ending here, Bala.
100%. And looking at Jason, he ended the day, the first day, with 100 points, or close to that, so definitely way, way above pace. And he's looking to set that as well on day 2. Already 50 points. Very close to what we saw Benji Fishy actually on earlier in the game. Benji had obviously gotten himself a couple of elims, so he's extended that a little bit, at least the difference here. Jason looking for his shots. Player nearby, looks like he actually wants to invade on the box, and yes he does, right on top. Jason almost goes for it. He does have the heavy snipe if he wants to get in. But now he's just waiting, looking to see, is this guy going to turn his head? Is he going to open an edit? Is he going to focus his attention a little bit too long for me to get in? Yes, it is! Boom, bang, in the box, and he's out. Hiden. No hiding in this case. 3 eliminations for Jason and a massive impact, Sancho.
Oh, Bala, are you from the future? You totally predicted that. He saw his opponent with his back to him, using that heavy sniper to get right and send the ultimate key for any box. It's the skeleton key for any box there. So it was a big-time play from Jason here. And now we see Benji. We see a Cinch. Lusa still around, getting this nice overview fly-in to take a look at it. It's so cool to see Benji being very comfortable at any kind of layer. The versatility in that. We talked about him being a box fighter and being a master rotator inside these fights here, sitting at 77 points. But today, Benji being the ultimate aggressor, getting his face in it. I think he's just kind of poking, because these are the same competitors that most likely he'll see in next week. So he's going to try to figure out, like, what is he going to have to deal with going on into future games to the rest of the FNCS Invitational, Bala.
I think that's definitely going to be a major factor. He does have a great position. I'm wondering where fifth zone is. As we're on the wide shot, we can't see the map right now. Benji, there's an opportunity here. He's actually moving forward to it. Yes! On to Sam. And instantly gets him down to 1 HP. He finishes it off as there's a impact again for Benji. The perfect timing. And like you said, conditioning his opponents. Putting the fear in them. Right now, Benji's unstoppable. He's a force of his own. But still, the end game is another force entirely. And there's a lot of players who can have a say on that. We saw Jason 76 earlier on high ground. And I believe on this side of zone that Salty Springs has it. We're now looking at Coolest Carrot, who was one of those open qualifier players that we focused on a little bit and showcased because of his performances with the drum gun. And now they're all looking at each other, waiting to see, is there going to be any launch pad places? Mitro is actually in a little bit of a fight up close to high ground. Nate as well in this game, the reigning duos champion from FNCS.
Just taking a moment to see what Nate is going to do, using that harpoon, and now he's going to expect to see if he could vulture some loot. Of course, every time that harpoon hits a wall or hits a person, that's one use of it. And now the congestion is building up as we're getting really close into that rotating circle here. Nate doing all that he can and all that he knows best. Gets a big time beam right on top of that. Doesn't know if he's going to go all the way in, knowing that there's so much action around him, Bala. So he's going to try to do his best to see what's the best opportunity to get more thing. Gets that opponent right there. 4 points for Nate. And Nate with 23. So he's on pace for a decent day. He's just going to have to keep it up. Currently, finished day one in 54th place with about 129 points. Again, Coolest Carrot finished day one with 78th place with 113 points. I think right now, I mean, this is a good recipe for Coolest Carrot. I mean, having that Midas drum gun, now he is kind of like a nice security blanket. So I'm expecting Coolest Carrot to do what he can. As Bala called out earlier, the community pad goes out and everyone just flies over. And then you're going to see that a lot of people box up here and try to save as many resources. And Coolest Carrot, right on cue, decides to catch someone right in then and there. Linear flopper going down. Controller 007 getting Thomas HD, but Coolest Carrot continuing filling up the feed, showing that you need your carrots to get that ultimate sight, and he's seeing it all go down here, Bala.
It's not the Omega 3s that you need as he takes out Benji Fishy. Coolest Carrots with one of the most aggressive landings I think I've seen. Landing on the outside of the box, but instantly trying to get ahead and breaking and phasing through. Well done from him. That's not something that you end up getting. Right on the side, and Benji Fishy even tweeting right after that, Coolest Carrot is the best player. If you go over to his Twitter, you'll see that right now. That's insane. 3 eliminations, but he's now in a pickle. Oh my goodness, he almost made it out of that. Ends up going down to Cafo, another one of the open qualified players who is still in this game. Mitro down a low ground. Sebi, who had a weak performance in day one, looking to climb back up in day two. I think so far so good, especially seeing him in one of these end games.
The in-games is going down as Jason76 gets a nice one with that AR, catching someone trying to rotate in, trying to evade the storm. He has a nice here stair tunnel. He's going to make his way, goes for the layer switch, goes a little bit higher, almost pays a price, but he does have the shield to kind of slow it down as the circle is rotating, getting closer to the A zone. And now Jason76, one of those players with a great number right now, looking really good, picks up actually an elim on Mitro. The storm finishing off that full elim for Jason. So more points getting in and getting out one of the big aggressive players in the lobby. Jason being continuously more aggressive. Another one on the storm line. And I'm going to expect Jason to continue using that aggression. And he's getting that heavy sniper ready. 110! Bang! Gets the job done, and Mini is out of the server. More points are accruing here, Bala. This is a great performance for Jason right now as we're getting into the top 5. So even though that 1 point,
he has height.
He's going in, baby. Go!
No way! He just launched up on the height from outside the zone. There was an opportunity there into where he got that impact. He looked for it. And then because there was an extra piece, there was old builds that the high ground player was not paying attention to, he landed perfectly on it, and even more loot as well as the grappler. Jason76 finds a cache of a lifetime, especially with the RPG and Sky's AR. Now he's going to be able to rip through all these structures that players are 100% trying to rely on to hide from the high ground onslaught that's oncoming.
Is it Friday? It must be Friday, because, I mean, Jason is wrecking everybody, hunting everybody down, and now he has the ultimate weapon on high, and he has the utility just to keep this entire thing down. Top 3, Capo gets it. Now it's a 1v1 as Jason finishes that up with that explosive rocket launcher. Jason going in hard right now, doing his best just to step up the height, and it's a 102-point performance right now in day 2, Bala, as the action is unfolding, and he's looking for this last person on the low ground.
And it Slicks from becoming legends. And Jason is just letting him know that I have RPGs for days. It is going to be a launch pad play, and he's actually outbuilt himself, so kind of put himself in a rough position. I think Slicks now has it, and he turns the tides. An RPG up on heights, but he blocks it and makes Slicks fall to his own RPG. Are you kidding me, Jason?
Oh, Jason!
Wow,
that is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
That's not the way I thought that was gonna go, dude.
No.
That's pretty crazy stuff. Yeah. Well, congrats to Jason. Heads up play saying, you got an RPG. Floors beat RPGs, I guess. You know, we've seen it before. Well, he's doing it again. Great heads up play. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings, see how things are going for the European region. We just got wrapped up with game number 4, and we'll be shortly hopping into game number 5. Woo! With that performance, though, Jason currently sitting all the way at the top there, 109 points, Sancho.
Yeah, dude, Jason, I mean, the big time moment in that match was him finding that free pad, launching himself to height, and then not only that, the lady luck on his side, finding the utility, and even though he didn't need to use it, but he just kind of had everything fall into place, and that's why Jason is sitting at first place.
And I have to point out of the top 5 right now, there was 4 of those players in that one game. So take stock in that. That's the matchmaking system in action, showing us all the high level play. And something to note too is Benji Fishy up on the top of the leaderboards, and nobody else in that top 10, I think, is up there with him. So probably in cumulatively first place. But on the second page, we see Castery starting to make a push up, who was off pace. 72 points now for him. Milan as well, 72 points. Looking like there's a lot of people who didn't have a good showing on day 1 starting to show up here in day 2.
And this is the questions on everyone's mind. What and when and who will have that pop-off performance? Because I know it's coming, Bala. I know it's on the way. Someone is going to show up in a massive way, just the same way that Wind did. So my question to Sancho would be, who do you think? If you had to pick one player that you want to see have that game right now and suddenly just show up in top 30 and be like, hey, what's up? You forgot about me. It's time to go. Who would that be?
I want to go with Mongrel, man. I think Mongrel is one of those ones that we saw earlier in the cast. We know all about him. I mean, he's a champion. I've always wanted to see, you know, we talked about with the open qualifiers, you know, changing of the guard, new faces coming in, but there's always something special about people reminding people like, hey man, I still am the best at what I do. And Mongrel will be one of those people that he hasn't had a full pop-off game. He has consistent games, high strong games, but not like that banger of a playing.
And he has that hunger, same as Benji Fishy, and obviously they're duo partners, both vying for first place as much as possible. For me, Zeke, I think somebody I'm looking for is Moki, who didn't have quite the performance on day one, but she's trying to make it in day two.
That's right, guys. Here we go. The game at number 5 in EU. Take it away, gentlemen.
Well, man, what a crazy day so far, Baller. We've been seeing some insane finishes, new names popping up in day 2, and then all that's going to happen is you're going to get to that top 300, sending you into the second week where top 80 advance, and then we got more action with the rebound, and of course, grand finals near the end of the month. Here we got first time looking at Mitro sitting here at the Shark.
And this is actually going to be a rematch. I'm not sure if all the 4 players here have indeed fought. I'm going to guess that they have multiple times over the Shark. But Mitro against Chapix is one that I saw multiple times in the feed go in Chapix's favor. With 4 players here in solos, it's definitely a risk that you take. Same with the agency. The amount of players landing here is very high. Sky is going to eliminate Cappy. And that's unfortunate because it's solos and you don't have any revives. And at duos, we saw a couple of notable names go down to the bosses. And Dietrich takes out Mitro instantly. So that's another boss in and of itself for Dietrich, who's at 59 points and also way up there in terms of the day 2 performance.
That was a nice elim for Dietrich there, getting Mitro out. Started off day 1 with 113 points. Didn't get any wins in that, so no doubt looking for that first victory royale. We're back into Benji at Retail Row. Yeah, I think you're right, man. He's just trying to tell everybody, hey, this is my place, and this is forever mine. It should be called Benji Row, so please step away from my property, and I don't want you to see you here next week if you end up making it to the top 80 as Benji now being that ultimate aggressor. And this is all Benji's. It's going to be Benji's world right here. This guy's in a whole heap of trouble, and the opponent knows it. I don't even think he has a strong weapon to fight back, so now it's just Benji playing with his food right now, trying to get this elim easy sauce, and Benji on the full attack. And wait a minute! Just like that, out of nowhere, Benji's runs over, and also in the feed, Mongrel goes down. There goes my curse, Bala.
Wow. And that's an example of what Shia was talking about earlier, the footsies, the spacing that you kind of have to have in these close quarter box fights. You've got to make sure that you give yourself the room for when somebody makes an all-in play like that from Kiko onto Benji Fishy. And it's interesting that at the same time Mongrel goes down, they're duo partners. And also, it's to the hands of Nate, who that rivalry has started. Not only is Mongrel against Nate something, but Andalex is part of that Nate duo who won the FNCS duos, and they actually gate-kept Mongrel and Benji out of the grand finals. And that's a big reason why they ended up winning. So a rivalry that started up and gone for quite a ways, and the Kings of Sweaty. Dietrich's continuing, though, on the Shark, continuing to try to make this work, and he does. It's Wakey who gets put down, and he also gets the cache of loot from Sky, plus the vault key off of Wakey. Dietrich starting off strong, but he still has one big boss to get through, and that's Chapix, who's diving right in.
Wakey, I believe, part of the FNCS squad champion team. So no doubt we're seeing a lot of champions going down early, a lot of champions having performances, and no doubt new champions will rise in this upcoming month. This is the FNCS Invitational Solos. You're watching the EU. Later on the broadcast, we will have NA East. And for all of those that want to watch NA West, that won't be on the broadcast, but there are a lot of big-time plays that are happening on that side of the world. Not for me, of course, because I only got 9 points. But now we're on board with Vemsa here fighting in Weeping Woods. And he's a pretty good pace. What do you think, Ball, is the pace for the day right now? You should be around your 50s or so for doing really well as Finesse is doing his best to play some defense. Yeah,
I think 100%. Towards the ends, nice shot from Vemsa. I think definitely on pace, but it depends on what his day one was. Combined scores, I think you want to be around 130, 132 points is what I would say in terms of an estimate for that top 300 to qualify. So 70 points on day 2. Hopefully you've gotten yourself around 60 points on day 1. Should be okay.
And that is the marathon of this total 20. And you know, I think that one of the things we didn't talk about is that you know, sleeping and waking up that next day. Like, how can you sleep knowing that you have so much running through your mind, man? I mean, it must be that intense pressure of knowing that you're on the outside looking in. What you did the day one maybe wasn't working. What can you do? What is your backup plan? As Rorik has to find a backup plan right now. A surprise from behind. Now he has a couple of minis, but he doesn't have the strong weapons to kind of put down that big pressure as his opponent gets in. 46, 120, does what he can to defend himself as Faye gets the elim, and Faye is having a big time day with 82 points, Bala.
That he is, and aggressive onto the player who's rotating outside of his cabin. Make sure that works. And this fight at the Shark still happening. This is what we will see. The zone overtaking the Shark. Both players just sitting still, waiting. And yes, as we talked about with Benji conditioning his spot, it's going to be the same for these guys here, trying to make sure that there is less and less players landing at the Shark in the later stages so that it's actually viable for them to continue. And it's actually viable for them to win out of the Shark in the grand finals. Chapix clearly qualified in day 1. He got 129 points. He was in 52nd place, and with 51 points already, he's well above my estimate. And that's my estimate of 132 points. So he's not worried about not qualifying. He's also clearly not worried about surviving much longer in this game, just doing what he can to make sure Dietrich does not survive and make his way through with the Shark. But 64 points, and you already pointed out the status for him. This fight, pretty much inconsequential, Sancho.
And always following up with the L, and I think that's what it is, just posturing, you know, letting them know, hey man, next time you want to meet me at the Shark, I'm ready to get you here. And Dietrich has 68 points and Sky's loot, and Sky herself did pick up an elim for her. I don't know what her point count is today in the FNCS Invitational, but Sky was one of those henchmen is always sought after, considering that you have that high rate of fire in her AR as well as the grappler. Not a lot of grappler plays today. We saw it a little bit earlier in the cast ball, but I think as you mentioned, as the lobbies continue getting more stacked, you're going to see that grappler come into much more of the end game as we were on board back with Faye, and this is going to be the third party opportunity. He actually isn't there with Asjay. Asjay is trying to get his best to get his footing again. It's kind of like a, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on right here? And then they kind of have this opportunity to reset. And he just gets right into that box and the window edit play right there, and gets asked to leave the lobby by Faye. And 90 points for the day for Faye. So I like this aggression from Faye right now, and his kit is pretty nasty right now, Bala.
And we've talked about third parties and assessing the situation before getting involved. In this case, Faye spots that the player was getting chased with the drum gun. We saw at the Shark how that unfolded. They would not let him leave without the mythic loot. The same thing here. And we actually are going to tune in with Chapix's former teammate of Crew, who played so well at the World Cup and on his road to the World Cup. And then also in squads with Chapix, Beehive and Ritz, one of the better squads in the FNCS. But since then, not really done super hot. I'm not sure. I don't think he qualified for the grand finals in duos.
He did play 6 in the World Cup solo, so this is in his wheelhouse of performing really well. And Crew does have the epic pump shotgun, and he's going to definitely use that to his advantage as he now has this is an interesting place to be. That was a nice reflex right there from Crew, because, you know, when you're sitting on the ramp, that little baby change of elevation from going from the top of the box to the bottom could be mess you up a little bit, but that quick flick of this wrist right there, and Crew is now in day 1 with 34th place with 145 points, now looking really nice as we're seeing that top leaderboard with Lecce here, Bala, as he's making his way across the map.
And Lecce on 108 points. He's definitely keeping pace with Benji, but probably just that's not going to be able to overtake, because there was a 17-point gap between the two at the beginning of the day. as Benji was in first and Lecce was in second, but still performing well. One thing to note about Lecce was that at this time, yesterday, was when he started to have his crazy performance. He had back-to-back ridiculous wins, or a win and then a second place with a lot of eliminations. And if you go over to Fortnite competitive Reddit right now, you'll see that endgame as he sets up for the double tap burst AR. It's only one dink, 64 damage, but that is still a great advantage to start this off, especially as he clearly is getting close to the box. And yes, he finishes that off very easily, surprisingly easily, even for Lecce, I'd say.
Yeah, man, the thing you brought up on the competitive Reddit thread was an insane thing. I believe he was sitting at 2 elims, racks up 7 elims, getting a total of 9 elims in that victory royale. And then his pop-off was so nice. He said, "I'm the best!" And Lecce is trying to do his best to be the best in day 2. Of course, sitting very close to second. He's sitting in second place. And Crew back on board with Crew. And then using that harpoon, we saw that. That player did not all of a sudden get this major jump advantage. He got pulled harpoon like Scorpion right closer to him. And Crew is going to go right in. And this is going to be a tough position to play here. And when you're on the low and you're getting pressured with the harpoon, and Crew is this is his place. This is his wheelhouse. With 59 points for the day, I am expecting Crew to, kind of remind the world, like, there's a reason why I was in the World Cup. There was a lot of big names not in the World Cup, and Crew was in it, and I believe he got the last victory royale of the day when he in the World Cup.
That he did. And there's a lot of actually kind of redemption stories from World Cup unfolding in this FNCS Invitational, since it's the first first regional solo tournaments. I mean, we've had DreamHacks, but not everybody had access to joining those and going to them. Although I'm pretty sure Crew did go to Anaheim and the Sweden. At Anaheim, he placed 16th, and at DreamHack Winter, he placed 84th. But with the official tournaments here, I think he definitely wants to make a resurgence after his 6th place at World Cup. Same thing in NA East, and a reminder that we are watching NA East later on. Same thing with Booger, right? After his first place. All the team modes, he hasn't had that much success in. Crew, Chapix, Beehive, and Ritz did have success in squad, so it's slightly different, but I think solos mode makes everybody so hungry. At least those who performed so well by themselves at the World Cup.
Yeah, Booga coming into 121 points, is sitting at 66th place right now. So no doubt he's still in the running for the top 300, and a lot of his fans are rooting for him to succeed. Crew rooting his way through these boxes, trying to look for that opportunity to know if it's A-okay to go in. I'm going to take a look at the mini-map right here. There's a little bit of people. This might be a little bit of clean fight. He does have to go through a couple of people, and there is someone rolling down the river. Going to kind of like scroll on by here. But Crew gets a little bit tagged himself, but then the use was that a harpoon? Sneaking his way right in, going right in and getting that full elim.
And that's the second time that we watch on broadcast today CRR, 2 games in a row, go down to very competent players in Benji Fishy in the previous game, and now Crew in the second game. So CRR, who is known as one of the most aggressive mid-game fighters, but also one of the most patient and, I guess, cerebral controller players, as we swap and actually see 2 in the past 30 seconds. Right now, he's kind of looks like he's not able to actually maintain against players of the caliber of Benji Fishy and Crew.
It's interesting, though. I mean, that's where CAR is. So no doubt he's landing somewhere where he's sticking to the same path, because we saw him in day 1 that's where he was, and he got a nice beam with the burst AR. So I think right now, you're figuring out where players are going to find him, and no doubt Crew knew that he might run into them, as we're on board here with Vinny. 49 points, does have a great kit and the valuable launch pad, and now there's just that opportunity where things kind of slow down a bit. Players are trying to figure out what's going to happen as Lecce kind of lurks his way in. No doubt Cactus has got to be at high, but Lecce does get a couple of hits on the back, so no doubt maybe Vinny comes in and gets in that third-party action, that knowing that there's a player weak in the lobby.
I think that could have also been Crew, but you're right. I think it might be Venny. Yes, it is. Crew all the way over to the left, not having anything to say in that. He actually takes a massive high ground position in third zone, so maybe a little bit too early. Possible investment of a little too much. Lecce, though, is the target of multiple people now, and with the ammunition of Venny, he has to basically hold on for this to run out. He's going to take a couple beams back, and also another player entering the fray for Venny. All of a sudden, things turn for the worst as Crew comes in for the save on Lecce from a distance and cleans that right up, and Lecce's going to get in that box as well and get a lots of loot from that. Zandalex takes out Droben, who again was part of that squad you pointed out earlier with Wakey, Snappy, and Redwash, who won squads in EU FNCS. So we're looking at a lobby with plenty of former champions and former big name players performing throughout all the online competitions in FNCS.
Clash of the Champions has happened as a Crew did accrue another 4 elims, a point right there, and maybe that high ground position being very keen, understanding that maybe he just wants to be the high ground in this little piece of land right now, as Lecce extending out, using that loot that he was able to vulture right off of Crew's kill, and Delex out in the distance. Lecce right now sitting at second place, no doubt overall. It's going toe-to-toe with Benji, but he has a lot of foes ahead of him, and this is another wide open circle. We saw this yesterday in day 1 between Seti Sands and North the Weeping Woods. But I like this for those of you, a lot of people. Sundown brought this up in the previous broadcast. You kind of use the extra loot that you have, you kind of extend a little bit, get more real estate, get some opportunities to branch out, and so knowing that you could always go back for that refresh from that existing loot pile.
100%, and with zone so close, he can do just that. So he's going to throw all those, he's going to recycle the materials, bring them up. And something to note positionally about this circle is that it came down south, favoring Lecce. He has that launch pad, and he's back up to full HP with a lot of loot to deal with because of what happened with Crew. And the position that Crew kind of gambled for, pushing up for that high ground, is now edge zone of 4th, which could have gone completely the other way, but now he's possibly going to get even 5th zone, and with such a high position, he can hold on to that and hang on for quite a long time, and I think he might be able to do just that, though. Of course, that 5th zone can go anywhere. For now, he's just going to use that to perch and try to find any opportunities to find some elims.
So you talked about it a little bit earlier. You mean it's investing in high ground early. I mean, the stats tend to not favor doing that in this third circle. But what would be the ideal zone that you want to take it? I mean, I talked to other competitors out there. They like to sit in maybe 6 or 7 zone, kind of take the high ground. But what would be the ideal time for yourself to take high ground if you're an inspiring Fortnite pro out there?
I think it depends a lot on your playstyle. It depends on what your goals are in every single game. I think we've seen a variety of different pros take a huge approach a different approach on a lot of fronts. I think Jamside, somebody who is playing the Invitational today, showed that, hey, taking 5th zone, yes, I might not win the games, but I will get a free ride to placement and also a potential for a lot of elims. If you take it in 6th to 7th, you give yourself that opportunity to get the wins a little bit more, but it is harder to actually take compared to trying to grab it in 5th zone. Now, it does go across the entire way, so it's not going to be the case for Crew to actually hold on. It's going to be the Kaizen mongrels, or baby mongrel side. That's not actually mongrel in that case. A younger version of him, maybe. Although I don't know what that looks like, considering mongrel is, I think, only 15.
Let's see now. You look at this. I was going to bring up that there's really any kind of big trees balla to block from sightlines. So that high ground, you can't really tarp over anything because people are going to be easily seeing that, taking advantage. I know in earlier chapter 1s that was the play to make, but the skill levels is progressing as here. We're seeing Lecce with 113 points progressing all the way through into the circle, and he's just on the edge right now. On the other side, he has the opportunity if he wants to turn around, but there's no one rotating in. So almost all our competitors are in. Lecce's sitting on the uncongested side of the circle. As you can see, not that many competitors if you're looking at the mini map, but he's gonna, oh my goodness, use that opportunity and take another person outside the server. Racks up another 4 points right there. Lecce, I mean, we saw Benji going down a little bit earlier in this game, so Lecce now has the opportunity to get some ground, even though it's about 70 points there, Bala.
And like I said earlier, this is the time yesterday where Lecce started to have massive games, started to have those clutches that got posted all over the place, and people started to turn their heads and say Lecce is definitely one of the best controller players in the world, if they didn't know at that stage already, though I don't know who has not heard of this man yet. The World Cup qualifier, a player who placed, I believe, very, very highly at DreamHack Sweden. I'm looking back really quickly to see where he placed third at that, and that was a spot that he actually almost did not even go to. So right now, Lecce's trying to make sure that that gap between him and Benji is not enlarged anymore, and hopefully even for Lecce, maybe switched. Maybe he can take the lead with this game.
And the Storm is taking the lead, pushing everybody all the way towards Salty Springs. A little extra salt as Razon does use the pad to get a little bit higher. Looking for the high ground now. This is what you're talking about. That 5th to 6th zone, taking high ground at this opportunity to get those placement points. 51 points for I, but there it is. The risk you take, you might be taken down. Now we have a battle here at the high. He does have a pad if he wants to use it to go up higher. We saw it a little bit earlier today, a flashback, but he does get one on Fixer. Crew does go down to Elam feed as we're bringing him up. Astro picks up an Elam, but Ryzon is sitting here at the high ground, doing his really great job here of keeping this entire lobby down. I'm not quite sure how long he'll be able to hold it, but he is really doing well, racking up those points that we're talking about a little bit earlier, Bala.
And Alex in this game, Imagine just went down. I saw Baye as well, who's one of the better, or known as the better mobile players in this. Lecce in the backside of zone takes him out just as I speak of him. He did make it to top 22, so a number of placement points, but Lecce, so many floppers now, and this is the opportune time. He has 143 mats. All this time in floppers, with the Slurpfish 2, now he's most certainly going to go for height later on with this, but he has so much time to basically sit here in zone, accrue the placement points, and also find picks, just like this player right ahead of him. And here he is. He starts the climb up slower and slower, and he still has 5 fish to work with. The Siphon also going to come through in the back there. Top 15, and I think he spots a launch pad that he wants to get, but pops the flopper before this, and now he might get launching closer and closer to that high ground where he has the opportunity to win the game from.
And Lecce is now on the high. No, he almost doesn't catch it here. Might go for that mid layer right there as Lecce, as we see now, he's gone on the backside of the Storm, and he has a great advantage here. Doing his best on the low ground, gets Laxi right there, big time elimination. These are the impact elims are going now forward here, Bala. So every time you get one, you can basically get 5. They kind of multiply. 5, 6 points are on the board. Jaime gets that one, so is going to do his best to rack up all these elims on the low ground, only with a common tack. No doubt he's going to look for an upgrade and more impact practice. Does not have a lot of builds to his name. He's going to do his best to chop his way. Got his opponent here in this cone. Going to crack the cone open. Try to get to that tasty center of the Tootsie Roll pop, so to speak. Doesn't find it that he's looking for. More time is being wasted here. It's a nice defense, but eventually gets right in and gets the elim on Shintz. Now we have 6 people left in the lobby, Bala.
And that's a fight that took a little bit too long for Rezon, and all of a sudden he knew that that fight was happening. It's basically a full-blown box fight in endgame, and you know how long those can take as we see through mid-game, but now inside the box, Rezon again gets the white shots, and he does finish it off. Now top 4, it's Lecce who goes down, and from the magnificent opportunity, it looks like he's not going to get there, and Alex gets a position way up ahead in zone, possibly a little bit elevated that he can look, but Rezon's actually going to climb, and he's getting very close, dangerously close to Andalex, and Andalex is so focused on Rotary right now, who used that launch pad to get a little bit more distance, while Rezon has bought the time to get back up to full HP, and I think also find himself one more elim before he has to face off against Andalex up above.
Andalex coming into second place at DreamHack Sweden, looking for some redemption and let the world know that I am one of the best solo players in the EU region, sitting at second place, but he has an opponent, and it's Razon sitting on the low ground. Always trying to be that warrior, but it doesn't matter. In comes Andalex with that big time shot and getting himself that victory royale.
And Andalex was in 5th place at the end of day 1, so with that he also puts himself with the 83 points that he has on day 2 in possible contention to be at the top 5 at least, and possibly even challenge again towards Benji Fishy, towards Lecce, who also had a massive performance in that game.
Man, oh man, we'll have to see if that is the case, because it's looking like he's got the trajectory to do so. Now, of course, gentlemen, thank you guys so much for coming on the cast. I'd love to get your quick final thoughts here on EU. Sancho, I'm coming your way first.
Oh man, it's opening up, and that's what I love to see. I mean, EU is just so fun to catch because it's one of the big, it's the biggest region out there in Fortnite, and it's so cool to see these big names finally popping up. But we're still seeing those open qualifiers still, as Monster says, meddling around into the ranks. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of the EU region opens up and finishes for day 2 there.
I think I completely agree. It's opening up both on the back end, but also at the front end. A lot of the names that we're competing for in the top are there and back again, and also having more pop-off performances. So it's going to be interesting, Zeke.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Fortnite fam, we're going to go to a break. When we return, we'll have more games from EU, so don't go too far. We'll see you guys after this break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the FNCS Invitational. To help round out EU, we've got ShiaWager and we've got Sundown. We'll be bringing that heat. Now, of course, gentlemen, we've seen some incredible games, so what I'd love to do is very quickly get your quick thoughts on what you're hoping to see in this next one. Shy, let's start with you.
I want some fast and furious gameplay. I just want to see things hit all the walls on all the boxes. That's just an easy wrap-up for me.
What do you think?
Honestly,
Sundown?
I'm ready. I want to see some pushes. I want people flying at each other. I want to see who's going to close out the day. I want to see who's going to be able to get the miracle clutch. And honestly, I hope we get to see a little bit of Moki. She's playing really well today. Just closed out another game. So hoping we can catch that at some point.
Absolutely. Well, the battle bus is drifting on over to the island a quarter mile at a time. So let's get ready to hop into the last few games of EU with Sundown and ShiaWager.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And it's so good to be on the cast today and hopping on in with Tohaj, my investing buddy over on the edge of the side. A very, very, very cerebral player, ShiaWager, somebody who likes to kind of pride himself on his ability to kind of focus and play safe and kind of get those routes down. We see him just outside of Misty Meadows right now.
And that cerebral type gameplay that Tohaj is so known for and likes to, have that as his playstyle hasn't been the thing that's been propelling a lot of these top contenders forward. It's kind of been more so instinct and feel and aggressivity. Right now, a little bit of both in Tohaj's playstyle, but we'll see if this old classic way of playing Fortnite will hold true in this game.
And Misty seems like there's a bunch of people creeping around it right now. You can see the little triangles as the point format does pop up on the right-hand side. Remember, those are the cumulative placement points total you can get, so you can see once you get towards the top 5, it spreads out. But there's also placement points at 75th in top 50, so after 25% in half of the lobby have gone down, you get a nice little reward, and then every 10 players from there. You really want to aim in this format, particularly to at least hit top 20, mainly top 10 to start getting those cumulative more points, as right now we swing on board. And we see it's either cynicals or cancels, depending on its Devour replace, but he's in a little bit of trouble here. 75, 75, 7, 82. Cleans up Blossy, save it at a quick double onto Lobard, making great use of that siphon, the extra 50 HP, giving him just enough to survive that with 18 HP. Brilliantly played, honestly, in a situation where he should not have been able to get out of that.
Yeah, now he'll be in a situation where before you'd have to try to find some HP, not many people carrying medkits. Nowadays, those kind of flipped around. We have these pocket white heals that a lot of people need to have, especially in solos, because if your path doesn't have floppers, there's no other way to get that pool up other than Siphon. And we know when it's the top 600 people in the region, the invited list, it's that much harder to find eliminations. Right now, Tohaj will look for his own. But as things wrap up, things will not be slowing down either for Europe today. It's going to be intense competition. Everyone, this is kind of their last chance in week 1, at least for this region, to find a space to perform, get to that top 300. Right now, Tohaj knows that. And we say he's a cerebral player. His mind right now is just thinking about finding as many third-party opportunities as possible and wrapping up fights. Does he know that Gripey is here, though? A medkit popped once again, the same pattern as we see before. Tohaj now on the back foot of this fight. Needs to find a way to get into an angle for better shots.
Yeah, and he had a pretty solid day yesterday, but currently sitting on 21 points. Also has a dead slot in terms of his utility, meaning he cannot use that C4 anymore. He's already turned it off. He's just holding a trigger in his right hand, but can he do enough with the ramp replace? Brilliant job to make sure he flips that wood there to get himself enough time to get out, but ooh, this is careful and this is close. Tohaj is being hunted right now. He is most certainly the prey and not the predator in this situation.
Yeah, ramp flipped about 6 times there to buy a little bit of time, maybe just a few seconds, but with 15 HP, he might not even be able to last about 3. Has that peanut butter triangle edit, and it's not enough. We'll see Gripey jumping right in, munching up this fight straight up, and now has a lot of shields to boot. Actually, not too many, needs to find more, but it's early game. We can still see loot, and this, once again, the repeated pattern we saw since game 1. Flame here as well from that game 1. It'll just be fights all the way around with an extra party coming in afterwards, landing shot after shot. That'll be Thico that goes down, and now Papito looks to wrap up this fight once again. Holly Hedges has its own brand of action.
And it's just these slow little delayed one-on-ones. People aren't quite getting third-party, but they're getting the engagements in time for the next person to come over, so you never really get enough respite to kind of set yourself up and then take stock of the next situation. I'm not positive he knows exactly where this player is, and as I say that, he gets dropped in on, but Flame gets absolutely 180 chunked in the face. That was a huge pump shot after being taken off guard, and from 19 HP, Papito says adios, and he's the winner on that one.
Yeah, tapped on the shoulder, turns around and just slaps the man right across the face. That'll be a wrap-up for that POI as well. That's two kind of wrapped and done, both Misty Meadows as well as Holly Hedges. We tune over here towards Lazy Lake, though, where it's going to be a while before things simmer down. So many people holding their ground. These fights now breaking out with hard mats. No one wants to leave this competition on the back half of Europe. That's a big shot over to that Fat Rat. 250 IQ right now, looking like he has none. Still another trap in the box as Falconly finds his second back-to-back in quick succession. But the fight still doesn't stop, Sundown. There's so many people up in this POI.
Yo, Falconly's trying to make a Twitter clip real quick. He might have a nice little 90-second montage if he can clean up this box fight. Able to get the double edits on the side. He controls that wall. Trying to find a second one. And he does, resetting both walls in between right after and then editing himself through. Falconly picks up a swift couple of elims down there, making it look easy. Again, player we've seen before is very good, but as we see, Milo Boyer in a 1v1, but somebody else lurking just outside of that shark, trying to take advantage of all of this loot, but they know that you have to finish a fight quickly against the player who has the vault. You can see in his inventory, he has so many extra supplies. And right now, look at the bottom right-hand corner of the minimap. Not only is there that other player, ABDN, who's hanging out just on the side, there's somebody else also off the island to the right, right on the very edge, who's waiting to see the resolution of this fight. Grab that boat and rotate towards it as Boyer takes a huge shot against him. Milo Boyer going to use that grappler to try and get back up on the high ground and just establish a little bit of a ground to cover himself. Not quite going to get the time. 54 HP now as the spray comes out. This is ABDN. This is the player who was over on the side, opting to now get into this fight. He's going to get his toes wet and say, hey, I'm bringing the fight to you instead. And the grappler looks like he's just going to try and keep creating space to disengage, because you really don't want to give that up. And now that he's revealed it's there, it should be a relatively easy find. 37 damage coming through. Some more spray. He is hanging on by a thread right now. You have to think he's eventually going to get tapped out, especially with the storm closing in and going to force some kind of movement. He doesn't have any white heals, Shio, so this is going to get awkward right about now.
Yep, but he still has that grappler to make things kind of sway in his favor. His match's running out, but like a classic boxing match, ABDN, being on the forefront of all of this, is running out of steam and ammunition. Just 5 tactical shotgun shots left, a little amount of light ammo. Won't do that much work from this large of an angle, and he has to expend even more mats to catch up to his opponent, who he knows must be at this campfire right now, healing up, but it could be a bait to kind of make him overlook, try to see exactly if he's crouching in and around here. Yes, it is. Actually bandaging up in a bush. I think ABDN hears it, jumps in, but can he find the shot? Misses the first one. The second one blocked by the tree trunk, but he chops him straight down. Milo Boyer tries to escape. ABDN finds the treasure, has some more ammo, can see a nice successful game as the zone's close by.
That was almost tragic. Just one of those moments where you go sprinting into the bush and then you whiff your first 2 shots. Luckily, Milo Boyer being low enough where it didn't turn to matter, the tack giving you kind of that barrier of execution, being able to say, hey, I can miss the first couple, I have the higher rate of fire, I have a little more generous spray, and eventually when I do hit you, it's still going to hit hard enough to take you out. As we're on the side here, Monkey Man 613 getting ready to execute a pinch onto another player who's kind of tucked away in here. You can see somebody else creeping on top of the mountain, but he's just going full stop here. The pump backing him off a little bit, but only hitting for 32, and goes straight forward with the SMG. Caught Go Miner, just not in a good position, whiffed the shot, and Monkey Man's pretty much set for late game now if he can make the rotation.
But we know exactly what he's going to be doing right after this box fight, trying to find another one. And we could see, just off of this game, the effects that the overall scoreboard and format is having on every POI, every scavenger route across the entire island of Fortnite. Everyone's just trying to to use one of their last games, one of the last 2 games, to climb back up into the competition, to make day 2 matter, the back half of 20 total games over the weekend, trying to get top 300, because if you don't, you're going to be waiting for that reboot round trying to get top 20, and that will not be an easy feat whatsoever. So if there's any secret strats left, if there's any more heart left in the body, it has to be shown now. Kaiser getting a freebie over to Lucky right there. I think he disconnected from the game. So picking that up will be good for his overall score, but still attract a lot of attention. One person on the backside, the south side, is just waiting, looking, seeing if everything's clear to possibly attack him in this fight. Everyone right now kind of spread out, but can see each other at any moment.
Yeah, and shout out to the Fortnite community. Love the amount of work and effort that people end up putting in and going through their resources. You can see that somebody put up a running total, and they constantly update the EU scores using kind of Fortnite Tracker and going through and comparing the scores. They have a cumulative leaderboard for what the top 300 look like, and they go through and they've been updating it in real time. Sitting here looking at it next to me, look at some of the players we should kind of be keeping an eye on in case they pop up in our feed or they're around. Moki being one of those who I talked about going into the break, has been playing fantastically today. She was one of the invited players going through, had a pretty good performance at DreamHack Anaheim. Got off to a little bit of a slow start yesterday, but has really bounced back today. She's hovering right around that 170-ish range right now, but some players we've seen or heard of before. Tohaj, just outside the 305 range. MCAS Squall ZK, just outside that range as well. Valhalla Viking Shadow is also outside the range, as Sebi and Serenity's Patty. So some players we've seen before who are right on that barrier, and it's looking like 130 is the top 300 right now, and with a couple more games to go, we can expect that to push upwards.
Yeah, but 130 is that total across both days, so you might see some people who just have 80 points right now that we might refer to being in that top 300, but that's because yesterday they had such a dominant performance. We saw Benji being at the top spot of that right now, and Dreda with 65 looks to further his possible lead on the competition in that top 300, getting blocked off multiple times by a lot of builds in this storm fight, with multiple parties kind of escaping from either side, but keeping track of how it's actually going to develop. And Dreda is still blocking a lot of shots, taking no damage. So impressive. The movement, just dodging shots over his right shoulder. Starts to move out, has so much control, actually doubles back on the fight and finds one more shot. Oh my god, and Dreda making Novar look like an absolute fool. That's one slick elimination to start off this game.
He's just always moving in the right direction. Novar, unfortunately, unable to put any amount of distance between him, despite getting the drop on Andretta. And you know, sometimes you ambush somebody who's ready for it, and Andretta generally is ready for it as he goes sprinting into another bush! And we cut away. That's rather unfortunate, as Vin RR, Gripey 4K hanging out over there on the box. Keeping an eye on the nice little lake house cabin.
He's the little warden. He's just making sure people are rotating properly. There's not too many Andretta-esque storm fights going on around, because you want to make sure everyone survives the competition.
Yep, hanging out at the main cabin in Weeping Woods, was honestly, I think, is kind of a trap drop spot. There's very few real chests in an area that you can effectively loot and then gain good sightlines on, but it's just my little opinion on that, as he gets a nice little rotation in, and you can see already a difference in yesterday in terms of the number of people who are, one, in the lobbies, because there's a little bit more aggression and desperation, but two, also the number of people who are posting up on the outside of the lobbies and accepting that. Almost everyone who's rotating and rotating in early is going way inside the zone, so they don't end up in this situation right here, where Vin is able to push onto him and the rest of the lobby has been spraying down, pushes straight into the box, and Wave Tacky says, adios, he's out, gonna have to queue back up.
Yeah, it's kind of like you think about, you know, in sci-fi, these starships that have engines and shields, and a lot of the time when they're taking a big damage, a big force from the front side, a lot of their attention, a lot of their shields, their bases are set up to strengthen the front side of their bases. But when you're at the edge and people are coming in straight from the backside, from Wailing Woods moving towards Salty Springs, that's your vulnerability spot. You're not going to be able to adjust in time, put those shields in your back burners, and then instantly just take shots in unsuspectingly. Maybe just one wall separates you from the competition rather than 3 boxes. Your game's over. At the same time, the way you rotate might also be dangerous. A lot of people walking in straight lines of vision towards heavy snipers like the one in Kaiser's hand. And he has full builds, a really good loadout. You talk about endgame Sundown. He's basically already there. He's just looking to survey the entire map and find snipes if he can.
Yep, that's the benefit of having that heavy sniper as well as that legendary burst AR. A lot of single shot potential that can end up doing a ton of damage, even if he just exposes somebody for a second, has the quick reaction. Trying to find the shot, and he does. Body shot goes through. 127, follows it up right away. Thanks for making me look intelligent, Kaiser. Hits the shot there, follows it up with that legendary burst, and he's immediately going to decide to play Loot Goblin. I am going to disagree with this decision. Only because what could he possibly look to upgrade and get from this other than floppers? Oh, and as I say that, ends up grabbing a stack of floppers, and we'll see. Does he keep the bigs? It's the classics question, shall wager. 3 bigs or 6 minis?
At this point, it's always going to be the 6 minis and then have those floppers if you have the option to afterwards. It's just too good to pop on the fly. If you're getting floppers, it's for that end game play. If you're sticking to the end game play, speed is of the essence. Minis are your friend. Right now, though, it'll be all about the mid game. So him picking up all that ammunition, I think, was the forefront of that push, having 500 bullets versus 250, medium ammo at least, especially with that gold burst AR. That's just the wave of supplying pressure down time and time again. If you don't have that much ammo, though, you can be in positions like Nakamakarma here, who can come right in, play his position, play off a wall, and get cheeky shots in. Just 4 bullets to drop this man straight down from all his shields, get into that box, clean things up, and get even more ammo and mats, especially positional pressure all the way here as his zone closes in. Notice Salty Springs, everyone like a donut still around the edges. No one filling up the creamy center, just waiting for people to move in once the zone shows itself. No one wants to over-rotate or over-invest with their mats.
Well, and that's honestly, that's more of an RMG situation. We talked about how people hadn't been kind of going towards the center. Once you get into zone 4, if you're central, you're actually guaranteeing that you have to rotate. So you're risking yourself guaranteed once to move centrally past all the people who are already just inside the circle and are saying, okay, I'm good. And then you're also risking yourself again right after when the circle shows, because 5th zone, as we talked about before, is the one we call half and half, which actually goes outside of the safe zone and begins the moving zone segment, or as we call it, the late game in competitive Fortnite. So there's really no reason to go centrally unless you happen to land there, and then you just get the benefit of a halfway rotate, I guess, and then some firing preference. So that's where you see ABDN, Cynicals, or Cancels, whichever one it is of those two hanging out as we survey the rest of the lobby right now. Andretta probably being the highlight name, the one to keep an eye on, as KPZ is just hanging out in his cone.
Yeah, and the server's kind of in that lock-in position as well, where everyone has their base. They're playing defense. 40 players still left alive and have been for the past at least 45 seconds. So no one budging just yet, even though you hear all the pressure. Brutus's minigun rattling up in the back end and AR's following just to make sure people have to check their position, invest their mats. Placement is being handed out. The next threshold about to appear as soon as one person goes down. And with 2 seconds left, we finally decide which side of this lobby will be Salty or Springs. Neither Wailing Woods, kind of towards that river is where people will need to be. About 10 people are in that position right now. And some people have max zone. KP not in the best of positions. Low ground will have to delve out pressure, but be careful not to tunnel vision.
And you want to have enough space to make sure that you're able to rotate, but you're still putting pressure on other opponents. As KPZ picks up AMP Claire, but the harpoons immediately come out, and it becomes who wants what and who can get their hands on what. KP trying to prioritize the mats there, looking for the big shield too, and gonna grab a pair. It's a relatively efficient pick. Get the elim, get the placement points. Skale getting dropped down there another level into his other box, so he'll be okay with that. As we see now, Rax, Krajnik, Dox, Alexis, Sillet all across the side, and we have hit top 40 as well, so another placement point going through there. But again, we're looking for top 20 before it's then every 5, and then top 10 before each placement. As Rax 36, 36, 64, ADJ goes down. Rax immediately gets traded back. Needs to go see if he has any shields stashed away somewhere. Looks like he does either that. Nope, just gonna forward rotate straight into the zone and make sure he has enough space. And This is going to be a tough one for him, considering he has 5 medium bullets, 30 in that rare AR at the end, and just the 1 flopper. So not a whole lot he's really going to be able to do, and he's stuck down at pretty much 1 tap to any real significant threat.
Yeah, right now it'll be a very dicey situation. Also a lot of pressure on him as well, because just having these limited amount of resources, you can only really have the impact off of them once, including that launch pad as well. We'll have to try to find a way through to put it down in the best position possible to not take damage. The tastiest target in the air as soon as one person just lands a white tag onto him. And everyone around him is so healthy with shields. And Drita next to the box of Cyclones. And then Rimic up top here as well. We saw him try to have a chance at a high ground earlier on. Didn't really hold it for too long. We'll have a reset on it again if zone falls his way. But 3 total bases right now. 1 really big one, a small community at the bottom. It prefers Moki, though, who's all the way here, kind of mid-ground. Could take out at some point, but gets pressured down on HP.
Kaiser directly underneath of the player we saw with that snipe combo earlier, putting to work that legendary burst rifle. First Elam comes across, and he has the fantastic angle using the cone and the half-edited wall to really keep himself protected, as well as the cone on the outside. Another 33 tag going through, making sure he's following those up, and now he's going back out towards the zone to get a better angle on his launch pad and joining everyone. Great bunny hop right there. Pressing jump as soon as you land can hold your momentum. Kaiser using that to remain on the edge of the zone, tunneling his way in, and now about facing. He's going to continue to now rain shots down on the rest of the lobby and looks for picks. Another 33 tag will get us into our top 25, as Cynicals is also still up. Jachu, M10 Pepper, Moki, Skale, Dox, Hubek, Silitz. This is a who's who of a bunch of EU's top players, as we see Moki able to pick up Jenks as well, and we have our top 20, Shio.
Yep, and right now it's all about holding the throne versus the climb. Players like Kaiser looking to be a barrier with that burst AR, looking to stop people in their tracks, not getting that top 300. Meanwhile, Moki looking to climb straight in, 89 points right now, but looking for so much more to try to solidify a position for herself in the top 300. On the backside of Storm, no floppers available, so every single damage in terms of health will be permanent down to 75, at least just 1 bandage. Is still moving so well with great speed, not even affected by the pressure around her. Blocks off, quick decisiveness on one side with the pyramid and brick. So many players flying all the way around her, looking for any type of a shot of a translation into having these bullets be an elimination, be a point. A Monkey Man, once again, we tune in with him again. Had that big load up before, trades it out for a lot of floppers. 8 total in the Storm right now. He can catch up whenever he wants. For now, though, leisurely thinking about what to do next.
He's big chilling there. That was a 9 flopper little pool he had there. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't try and take a little bit of a harder or weirder angle on this to try and take advantage and just abuse the fact he had so many, but instead getting in front of the zone and about face, and Kaiser goes down. Mudasun gets Vertex, ADN, and now we're into our top 10. So every single elim here, you get 4 points, but every placement you go up and you're getting more, as ABDN also gets Skale. And here's Monkey Man sprinting back out into the zone and looking to about face. Nakama Karma picks up a whole bunch of numbers. No clue who you are, friend, but Monkey Man knows who he is. He's a player who wants to eat some fish. Moki as well, though, says, hey, I got some sushi myself. Going up onto the high ground and taking away with a very aggressive manner. However, is now down on an empty slot. She's trying to find the player in the zone as we have our top 3. She wants to close out with the victory royale, having the high ground and plenty of mats to be able to hold it. 36 left. Player going up, trying to challenge, but a fantastic cone to block him off. Trades the pump shot right away, and Moki is just absolutely better. That was our flopper player, Mr. Monkey Man, going down, and Moki says, now let's bring it. Begins waterfalling down. The player goes to drop it, but she has plenty of room to catch herself. The 14-year-old player from Gen G trying to show that she is one of the best in EU and has come to play. Can she close it out? 112 points already. Epic pump shotgun has all the positioning. 143 knows it's nothing but a tag through, and Moki closing it out against Jachu. 123 there, 3 elims and the victory royale. Well done from her. And honestly, big fan of that skin. Big fan of Moki. Just brilliantly played.
Such an awesome victory royale moment there for her. Like you said, the 14-year-old player killing it right now. Now, of course, we got to think, you know, what happens if she makes it all the way through that top 300? We want to see her go the distance and make it all the way to grand finals. And at very worst, she could try again in the reboot round. Shout outs to you, Moki. You're a legend. Gentlemen, what do you guys think? That was a pretty exciting game, all things considered. I mean, is there something you might have wanted to see done differently? Maybe someone else you would have liked to have seen have that pop-off performance that we're still kind of waiting to see? What do you think, Shia?
I mean, I think that game was colorful, if anything. We saw a lot of different types of styles be played by multiple people. Kaiser at first was kind of the bodyguard, but after that had to catch up, reposition. Moki played mid, took damage, knew how to play defense, but at the end, clean pump plays. Usually it takes people 6 to 7 tries of shots, especially with the pump as well, to land damage. But Monkey Man, 1-2, done. Out for the competition. Down below as well, decisive strike with a pump AR combination. She made it look too easy compared to everyone else that we saw today, and everyone else just looked really good as well in that end game.
What do you think, Sundown? I mean, you brought up one Monkey Man. No way to know who that person is, but their play looked pretty clean.
I'm not going to say upset, but when you have 9 floppers, we've seen the ridiculous, like, you can do the math. Man, that is a lot of heals. That is a lot of time. That is 45 seconds you can effectively spend in the zone before you have to go back in. We've seen the most success in those circumstances come from players then taking weird angles and going out almost like perpendicular to where the zone's going to come because nobody looks there. His decision to play the zone, I think, actually ended up costing him a little bit and being slightly more traditional and thinking, oh, I have 9 floppers, I have to take high ground, because Moki was still established up there. In his push, he used so much to get up there that at that point he was still fighting a fight from 1 grid below on the high ground against somebody who, honestly, I think is one of the top 100, 150 players in EU right now, considering how well she's been playing recently. So that's a really tough proposition when you have so many players in EU who are so freaking good at Fortnite.
EU, always showing us the beauty that is Fortnite. So what do you think, Shao? We've got another game left. Who are you waiting for? There's got to be one person that you're like, listen, this is it. This is their opportunity. They've got to put the points on the table. Who is it, Shai?
I haven't had an update supremely about him, and he started off the day, I believe, at 31st, and I haven't seen too much of him myself while casting, but Mr. Savage, I want to see him not only qualify, because I'm pretty sure he's on the route to, but do it in good fashion like he always does, breaking records, breaking hearts as well from all the other opponents in the lobby. I just want to know where he is, and I hope to see him in his next game. But from what we've seen so far, with all the players in the EU, like, anything can happen. There's so many, once again, different play styles. It'll be the defenders versus the people trying to claw back and qualify. We saw a hint of it in that last game. I want to see more bodyguards like Kaiser. I want to see more climbers like Moki. I want to see some switch-ups in this next game.
Same question to you, Sundown. There's got to be someone in there. Who is it? You always do this. You've got a person in there. Who is it?
I want to see Boyer at some point today. I'm going through and looking at the sheet. He's hanging right around kind of the mid 200-ish range. That's E11's Boyer, not Milo Boyer, who we saw in the last game. So hopefully he pops up. But I think we're about to hop into game here. So excited to get the next one going right now and see who is able to pop off as we're getting towards the end. It is 4:04 p.m. on the East Coast. Means the queues should be about done. We'll get the last couple of games going as we see another competitive vet actually getting taken down there. That's Atlantis' Majin going down to Cartoon here.
Yeah, up in Misty Meadows as well. That was a fast, decisive 50-50 fight. But we are tuning in a little bit later. A lot of loot still gained from both players. Still one more person left over at Misty, and right now everyone's minds must be working in overdrive, Sundown. They're just thinking about how to plan out this game.
Yeah, and you talked about Mr. Savage looking at this handy-dandy notebook sheet I got over here that, again, I highly recommend people check it out. If you check out FN Competitive, I know somebody posted it on over there. It's a cumulative running standing board. They have it for each one of the regions. You can control F the players you're interested in. I know, some cool little sheet functionality for people out there. But Mr. Savage currently is sitting in 21st on the combined score. So
nice.
doing pretty good there.
I just want to see all the nuances of the way he plays the action. It's always so solidified, but a lot of people, including Stormy, right, actually, are taking accounts of that and putting it into their own gameplay, always having a decisive take on what to do next. The biggest issue with Stormy sometimes, though, is the tunnel vision when it comes to making plays, sometimes being forced into positions, and that happens right now as well, as he tries to play back a little bit fearful of the power that Cartoon had, and Cartoon sensing that retreat, pulls straight in, controls every single piece in every single box, and wraps up that elimination in a record time.
Yo, Shayo, I'm going to ask you something. I think if you don't have attack shotgun or an SMG early game, I don't think you take a fight. Thoughts?
Disagree, because we've seen it every single opening of every single region, and NAEast is coming up, we'll see it there too. The Burst AR, I think, is the most sleeper early game weapon that can just surprise someone with 360 damage headshots close range. Thoughts?
I think I agree. I think the Burst AR is stronger in the early game than it is in the late game, as we see Benji now going to work, trying to use that C4, the remote detonation there, something that has been adjusted for competitive play in particular. Benji using it to get whatever advantage he can, and then pushing in to Jader's box, sitting on 190 points today. Benji, come on, man. Like, let somebody else run through. He's just been playing solos so well. Like, he talked about it yesterday, man. He just loves solos. It's something where he feels he can be himself. He's not dependent on somebody else. And I think it really gives him a good opportunity to express himself. But Apocalyptico on the backside getting some good pressure. And then that's the second C4. That's more than we've seen, I think, the entire weekend, going out and being pressured onto him. But Benji will have plenty of room, because he does have what looks like the vault loot over from the box factory, since he's sitting on Piao Piao's rifle and just tons of shield.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's two people and I'm missing one person on my screen, because the way Benji's moving, the amount of builds he controls and ends up putting out once he actually starts to expand his entire base, it's just so fast, and I can barely keep track with it. These players can't either. Right now, yes, he's on the defensive, but look at the amount of time he's bought, already up 50 shields. It's so difficult for many people to do that on the back end as well. Instantly turns away the fight. Like, this man is so fast and so good at what he does, now has height. If you blinked or even looked away for 5 seconds, you've missed the power dynamic, and instantly takes over. Apocalypto does not even understand what hit him.
And the thing that honestly impresses me most about the absolute top tier of Fortnite players, and when I'm talking to everybody about it, they're like, oh yeah, the building is crazy. I'm like, honestly, if all you're focusing on is building, a lot of these players can all build incredibly and do it well. Yes, some do it and execute better. What Benji and what Jake also does incredibly well in a lot of circumstances, I think we're about to see here, is the way they're able to weave in the builds and edits into their own fights. The way he's able to throw a wall out and protect himself as the shots come through. But unfortunately, Jake letting me down there, not covering himself in either one of those circumstances, and Ray's doing what Ray's does best and just flying forward at him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only issue with Jake there is he had no materials to implement his sound strategies, so no matter what happens, you still have to start off the game and ramp up. You're not handed builds automatically unless you find a llama somewhere, but he didn't obviously have an option for that at all. Raze will be in control of the entire islands, have possibly that 9-flopper gameplay that we saw in Endgame a little bit earlier, but Snuffle's another player that we see time and time again in these games on this broadcast, is going to be having a different POV, not in an endgame box this time. Going to be walking around as we tune into different fights all around the map. It seems a little bit more quiet, a little bit more on pace what we saw with Benji, some longer range medium engagements that get followed up with, but we saw what happened last time. The aggressor got turned on basically and didn't have a chance to finish up the fight. Will the fate be the same for Ice here?
Yeah, and you saw he had instantly been able to pop on at least some shields. Not sure if those were fish or minis, but they get taken right back off as Ice hits him with 2 back-to-back 35 tags, pressing forward, trying to steal whatever walls he can. You can see Teak desperately trying to disengage and get away from the situation. Good job walling off there, putting a floor in between, and using the tree to his advantage. However, Ice finding an angle and still tracking and following Teak incredibly well. Pushes into the box now. It's just the ramp separating between. Teak unable to get out the side. Takes the 75 hit. Ice phases up through and Teak gets destroyed. Absolutely no turd, no change in damage, and Ice will reap the benefits there. Great mid-game fight.
Yeah, I mean, Teak right there looked like he was really fast and doing everything that he wanted to do, but he kind of just ran out of room ultimately on the back end. Now we'll see Tokar once again also on that height near Pleasant Park, looking for a shot of his own. No materials, I think, left on his opponent. No, he has a few just trapped in his own builds. A lot of early game fights though, Sundown, and 60 players left alive. People might be trying to accelerate their games here, find eliminations they couldn't before.
Again, once you get down towards the back half of the game, it's half of it is people who feel they just desperately need to hold on for those last few fights and make it an end game, and the other half is people who are saying, okay, I need a 50-point game here, or I need at minimum 5 elims before I start getting into placement points before if I'm going to try and push for tomorrow, and people will go for it. And yes, some people will be cost, but that's the nature of a battle royale. You're dropping in, there's 100 other players in the lobby, 99 players do not win the game.
Yeah, and then that's a big thing about endgame and passive playstyles as well. You're expecting so many more players to be able to be left alive near that endgame. When there's less, it's kind of a different game altogether. The people who play for those, you know, in the air eliminations, those box-to-box fights all the way in the 7th, 8th zone, you don't have that opportunity there either. So all these players not only having an effect right now on people's paths, box-to-box, but people later on in the game as well.
And you can see right now Tokar just trying to farm up whatever he can. He's in kind of a rough situation. Doesn't have the top 50 shield. Doesn't really have shotgun bullets. Like, is only sitting on about a third of his mats. However, has a decent amount of space here to at least farm up a bit. And get some metal, get some resources, maybe get a little bit of safety and get a little bit of respite. But until he's able to find some shotgun bullets, like, he really doesn't want to get into engagement.
With just 6, especially the tactical shotgun, I mean, I could say yes maybe for the pump as it hits slightly harder. He's going to have to back up. Knowing that, though, is that a good play style for this game right now, Sundown, or does he need to turn on the gas, maybe use that AR and harpoon combination to get in the boxes?
If you only have 6 bullets, I think you cannot take an extended fight, so you need to get in and make those 6 bullets count. If you're able to break into somebody's box and have 6 bullets with attack, that should be enough to resolve a fight. And honestly, if it's not enough, you probably don't deserve to win the fight. As now we hop on board with Cartoon here, who we saw with a great early game pressure, but hasn't turned it into a lot more sense. Sitting only on 3 elims and still looking for refreshers for his mats, not afraid to build out and use as much as he can. Tracking this player, has good control, 41 going there, but gets traded 36 back himself. Does have the minis, as well as that Slurpy Swamp directly behind him to top off afterward. And he's going to continue to just press W, hold forward, depends on the input mode, but Glorly is having none of it. Trying to disengage, create as much space between him and Cartoon. He says, get this Psycho away from me. I want to play for late game. I want nothing to do with this. And Cartoon wants everything to do with it. He still has him pinned right now because Gorley pressing the fresh cone. He's going to lose both the cone and the floor. And the chase is on. And Cartoon finds yet another one. Gorley going down there in 50 seconds. So only 1 point for his trouble that game. That hurts.
Yeah, and that looks like box-to-box pressure, but I think it's more so the mental. As the storm ticks down on the movement of it, you'll have the player Glorly, the defensive one usually in this situation, start to question why this individual is pushing them, make some more indecisive moves, possibly rattle a little bit on their defensive builds, and then 100%, as that zone gets closer to move, we'll see openings for players on the edge to find eliminations. That'll always happen, but then put them on the back end on rotating in. Right now, a lot of calmness near Pleasant Park, not too many boxes to fight in, but once again, Aqua now will look with Sky's loot to expand on his elimination collection. 2 right now to maybe a fast 3 as he owns the wall. The quick pyramid, the chase down now gets extended. An opportunity to end that fight early. Miss the third-party RPG coming in, and he finally finds it. I believe on a Blackie there, he gets taken out, but now he's on the defense with so much loot left to kind of sift through.
Very well played there from Aqua. Again, we talked about placing structures around them, cutting somebody off. A really good job to get those metal walls on that side and then instantly force onto Blackie, making him look like he was a little flustered, honestly, in that situation. And Aqua now with a solid amount of tools here and an excess on shields, so he's not going to be afraid to run around and look to take trades and look to take some of these fights, knowing he has so much mobility and so many opportunities to kind of farm himself back up. And as I say that, immediately flying forward, but gets coned off, so going to back out, grapple away, and then go to reset the fight. knowing, again, if he takes any chip, he's fine. He'll just heal himself back up. And he's going to continue to use that mythic grappler again. We talk about just how valuable Sky's loadout is. And Shao Wager, I'm of opinion, everyone said during the opens, the drum gun was the weapon to watch. It's a super OP one. I think the grappler is going to end up being kind of the S tier, with the drum gun falling probably just below it, and maybe even with Sky's AR, simply because it comes with the grappler.
Yeah, I feel like just the opportunity to relocate yourself or find a different fight fast, the grappler mid-game usually survives with the same player over time. And because of that, you'll see it in every single endgame actually being utilized in the best positions possible. The people who start with it will have a game plan to implement and will be able to, because it's just so free basically with that weapon. The thing is, once you're finally on height, holding things after the plan gets difficult. The grapplers, seen it so many times, end up in different hands, and that means Sky's AR will follow suit as well. That power will stay there all the way, possibly and usually till the last elimination every single game. Whereas the drum gun, sometimes you already have a really good loadout. Yes, you can see it from time to time, maybe at the edge of storm. It'll never be in a power position. It'll never be claimed, sometimes just left behind. So 100% the agency taking a knockdown in these higher levels of competition from the week-to-week qualifiers. In opens, though, I feel like that drum gun always ends up staying alive for a long time. In situations like this, with Pink, he gets straight in there. If he had a drum, an even faster elimination. This is more so an open engagement, but we don't see it too often.
Yo, can we talk about this dude's fit right now, though? Like, Agent Peely with the demon wings and just going flying into people's boxes. Like, if I ever had a sleep paralysis demon, it would be that. It would be Agent Peely with demon wings just hopping into my room in the middle of the night. Because that is terrifying, as now you look on the rest of the lobby. That is almost as equally terrifying. Thomas HD, Benji Fishy, just so many top-tier players over off in the side, like... You don't want to come anywhere near these guys, and yet so many players still have to rotate into the zone.
I don't want to close my eyes even for a second, because not only is it so good to watch, but yeah, kind of afraid of going to sleep or figuring out what's near the dark. And Thomas HD has Brutus's minigun, something that we haven't really talked about so far, but I think is on the same level in these games as the drum gun, and can operate from range as well. I think infinitely too, right? You never have to reload it. You can always be online. This person can be also a big nightmare.
Yeah, the one thing that is a slight difference is that kind of the rev up speed and then how quickly it cools down. There were some slight adjustments earlier on in Chapter 2 to that, but still minigun. Big, strong. Big, strong makes bullets go burr, makes walls disappear. Particularly if people get caught out in the open. However, I mean, we talked about it a lot last week. I think slightly weaker only because of the change to solos, as is that heavy sniper, but it still hits like a truck. As Cryptice goes down there, and Thomas saying, hey, you know what? That Deadpool supply drop looks awful free right now. It's his turn to try and be a loot goblin, and as he does that, another player also going. Brutus's minigun going to begin its ripping and tearing process as the bullets do go burr. However, the pump going to immediately shred back, and Thomas on the negative side of that trade, and we've talked about it before. The pump versus minigun combo, if you're not able to get there, oh boy, this will be fun. Cartoon versus Thomas, who wins, Shio?
Right now, I'm going to call it, it's going to be Thomas 100%, but I don't even think there's going to be a fight, honestly. Actually, completely lied. Big shots being traded. My money's on Thomas. Not sure about you, though, Sundown.
Dude, Cartoon's been playing better in this game. Like, Cartoon has been flying at people. You can tell he's not afraid. He heard that minigun. He's going for it. Thomas is looking for the bait. Thomas actually took the heavy sniper out there for a second. Looks like he's going to try and force through the wall. Instantly goes to try and no-scope going through, but this is also super awkward because editing went down on this grid. It's really hard to get precise edits going down, and Cartoon trades out two huge shots onto Thomas, forcing him back. Has control over that wall, but again, both taking a second to be like, nah, chug. Some slurp time, 82, and Cartoon blasts them right back. The better shots on the day, Shio. You know, sometimes you're right, and then sometimes you have to eat a jar of mayonnaise.
I mean, you know who the real winner is, though, and doesn't have to eat any mayo at all? Nakama Karma, because every time he's in this position against someone with a mythic weapon boxed below, that person ends up never focusing him. Yes, Thomas goes down. He was next to his box, now gets to walk free and be somewhere else in the game. That man is a curse to any player next to him, I feel like. They always end up getting eliminated moments when they just touch his box.
And we have that top 40 now, and sometimes that's what we talk about, just the patience. You're there, you've already set yourself up, you've established defensively. Not moving is sometimes the one thing you want to do to guarantee yourself some points. You don't have to take every fight. I know it's astounding to hear some people say that, because you'd think that people just fly at each other and they want to get the elims based off of the points and what a lot of people react to, but more often than not, the players who are consistently able to go through are disengaging and not taking fights in certain areas. Right as we say that, a quick little exchange is going on the outside of the safe zone here, right in the corner. Gyansa's getting pressured, but he has tons of supplies and Slurpfish. He knows if he can get out of this fight, he'll be in an okay situation. Benji picking up Clement on the side as Gyansa picks up Snuffles, and that felt kind of desperate there from Snuffles.
Yeah, that was definitely not a cuddly fight whatsoever. Snuffles actually probably really sad right now about that one. Had such good loot as well with Slurpfish. Not sure what he actually needed. Storm Surge isn't here either. I feel like this might be, even though queues were closed, an earlier game where some people might just be getting their W key on to slide in their last. Skale available here as well.
And now everything is just settled in. Yeah, we're chilling. Like we said, this is the part of the game. It's like everything happens at once, and then a whole lot of nothing happens unless somebody gets chosen. And now we get a good look at that lobby again. Here's Aqua with Sky's loadout. You have Benji just below him on the side. Magil also in the lobby. And you can see another one of the supply drops is going to be fought over. If you check the bottom right-hand corner, pretty much everyone is pocketed over by the supply drop or in the zone. The reason for that being the supply drop, the guaranteed launchpad, shall wager.
Yeah, and people want it. Communal ones put up everywhere, but the man who's going to be spectating every single one looking for the tags, the pattern we see, a scary one too. Aqua on height. And every time this happens, every time it's 5th zone and he's there, he ends up winning the game. This time, he won't have a minigun. It'll be a grappler. We talked about it before. This is the item to have for the top players on the server.
It's just so good, man. Unlimited uses, you're able to get actual vertical and horizontal speed. You can save yourself from fall damage when there really isn't any remotely good ways to save yourself other than catching yourself or the random landing on somebody with a glider. And then the fact that it also comes with a higher rate of fire, mythic AR that is able to just absolutely laser people in the hands of somebody who aims as well as Aqua. Like we've seen how well they were with an infantry rifle. This basically has the first shot accuracy timer of it. And right now, Aqua was at 240th yesterday, so a good little bounce back so far today, sitting on 114 points. Should put himself well in that top 300 when all is said and done. But now another high-level player as we close into the top 30, pulling Mr. Savage special. We saw him being the first one to really start doing this in the late games and sitting inside fully built cones, and he does it, and he takes out Flick. A nice little pick there, but playing Loot Goblin costs him a solid amount of HP. He's not going to be able to get the white HP back, but does have plenty of shields he can pop safely.
I mean, there's a reason he tells people to use code 200IQ. It's because he has that brain power with every single combination in his loadout. At the same time, smart moves from Aqua to actually put down Metal 4s beforehand. Now, basically, the foundation of his big tarp is un-RPGable. At least it'll take 2 of those explosives to come through and stop him up. This gives him time to take people out like Tokar from range and free reign. 360 degrees of total carnage, but doesn't actually stop the bask in it. A launch pad immediately put down. He knows the power points he needs to get to. He knows where he needs to be to get more action, more sight lines down, and he needs to move to get there first.
And he can just wait because he has the grappler, and when he decides to go and he wants to go up, there is nothing stopping him other than revealing that info. But however, the player who flanks him timely and knows he has the grappler out, makes him eat 3 tack shots there, forced him down to 52 HP, and again, he's in a tough situation now because he needs to find time to not only pop 2 minis, but also a big shield, which generally you're not going to get. Rocket Launcher coming out right now, keeping pressure onto him. They know he has the grappler as well, so they're not going to give him that time. He has to drop down and create a little bit more space, and as he does that, he actually moves into a really good rotational spot, getting towards the edge of that zone. Going to take a little more white damage on the trade here, but has the grappler to begin his horizontal move and straight into the box. 69 into 78. Can he follow it up using the rate of fire from that AR to get through? A great window edit on the other side brings him down to 32, and he says, not today, Cooler Aqua, not today. High ground, the mythic loadout going over to Gyanza as the Karma sitting here on the mid ground, Chayo.
Yep, it's always this individual that ends up being right above or below absolute carnage. A hole-in-one almost from Aqua, but he becomes right below par at the end of the day, trying to get into that box. Now Karma finds a way with 2 eliminations to survive all the way at low ground as Pepe finds a chance to miss a launch pad, possibly no materials on the side jump. Gyanza still controls height as Karma is still finding ways to survive. A mere 8 HP, breaks into the box, becomes the third party to his own fight, and picks up huge dividends on loot, but he has to be able to survive to use these materials. A chance here, needs to pop the minis, absolute low ground, as the entire server drops down to 8 people here, Sundown.
And that slight little lip on the hill is actually causing a lot of people trouble, forcing them around the right-hand side because of all the builds that are already there, and into just this funnel of destruction that was Skite and Alex on the backside. You can see Alex forced into the site as well. Skite, however, has high ground on the rest of the lobby. Slimy, Paler, Nakama Karma, all pinned down as Skite, the French player, who is qualified for almost every major event, is going to do his best to close it out, but now forced to drop down as Paler has stolen the grappler away from Gyanza, who had it. We see it changing hands, and will it turn into another victory? It looks like it might, as the Karma also going down, and Aloft Slimy playing from the low ground. He's doing incredibly well right now, and it looks like this should... Honestly, I'm not sure here. I want to see the loadout of the other player before we call it, but grappler OP, question mark?
Possibly, but every time it's always a wrap-up in a 1v1, and the grappler won't matter if you need to get close and personal to the person on low ground. Right now, Paylor has that pump shotgun. We've seen it do big damage, but if he misses that shot and this player has attack, it could be deadly, but it's 2 pumps back-to-back in mid-air. Paylor finds the 1-2 left-right hook combination. Zeke, what a game to watch. Big developments on the EU scene.
Guys so much. Guess what? We're hanging out in House Party. We're hanging out with our boy E-Mad, who has just recently... Dog, you been jumping in any pools now or what?
You know, every day it's my morning routine. You know, hop in the pool
Listen,
every morning.
I was always wondering, man, how did you even come up with the whole idea? I'm gonna go jump in my pool today for the hype. That's crazy.
Well, one time, Poach hosted me a while back for like 10,000 viewers. I was so hyped. I was like, I got to do something crazy. I didn't have a pool cam yet. I was like, I have to do something. I got the stream on my iPhone. I got my mom to film it, hopped in the pool, and everybody loved it. And I was like, yo, I'm going to get a 50-foot USB to USB cable, ran it outside, glued the tripod to the wall, and put a webcam out there.
Dude, that's like so bugged out, because like I was always wondering too, like, where is his setup that he could even capture this thing? Because that's crazy, man.
It's so you should see the tripod. It's literally Gorilla Glued to the wall.
What?
And then the camera's on it. Yeah.
Hey, man, but you've been doing so well. I mean, you're going into day 2. Oh, man. And what's crazy about it, I saw on Twitter, you put out a Twitter poll to see if you're going to play or not in this Invitational, and you're popping off.
Yeah, everyone was like, we want you to play. You should play. And I was like, all right, I'm listening to the people. Down to play. I got 73 points yesterday. The first 4 games did not go so well, so I played every end game out. Got some points. Let's go. Ready to play today in 30 minutes.
That's right. So what are you going to do differently? You gonna run it back same?
I think I'm going to be landing, on my secret spot. Can't leave.
Right. Gotta keep locked.
I'm going to be playing for end game. I'm going to be playing for end game. That's the plan. Every game.
Bro, that's so awesome. All right, what do you want to say to the fans out there? You know, we want to open up the stage to you. Let you plug whatever you need to plug, all your socials, your Twitters, the whole thing.
Nah, I'm not gonna plug anything. All I want is for everyone to stay safe during these times. Try to practice social distancing. That's the most important thing. Try to keep everyone safe during these tough times, especially. It could be like really rough for some people. So just much love to everybody. Thank you guys for supporting Fortnite and the stream. Shout out to Epic Games. Greatest freaking game ever, Fortnite. Let's go. Thank you guys so much for having me as well. Thank you guys.
What a guy. Thank you so much, E-Man, for hanging out with us on House Party. Best of luck in NAEs, bro. And we'll see you in just a little bit, man.
Thank you. See you guys.
Man, there you go. Hanging out with our boy E-Man. What a guy. Well, Fortnite fam, that wraps it up for EU. Now, with all that being said, please don't forget we will be posting the final combined standings later on in the week, so please check our social channels to see who is moving on in the top 300 into week number 2.